I will make that statement again. That the current Inspector General of Police is not managing the police service well. It's something I will not run away from. I will say it everywhere, anywhere that I go. And you can do your own investigations, call police officers underground, and find out from them. My concern was and is that as we speak, majority of police officers are not happy. And remember, police officers, they vote. Their wives vote. Their children vote. Their mothers and fathers vote. That is my concern.
It should jolt your memory, and you need to accept that, yes, that's my voice. That is all that we're trying to achieve, you know. And let's get it that simple, and it will be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But my problem is that because of technology, you might hear some voices that looks like your voice, but you don't remember saying those things because anybody can put anything anywhere. Sometimes you can see your picture, which is not even yours, but it's your picture. My intel suggests that what was used to tape the conversation was done by the current IGP. He sent some people to do it, and after which he went for it. So the tape, from my intel, is with the IGP, and he caused it to be leaked. So if this committee wants the tape, the right person to call before this committee is the Inspector General of Police.
Well, so that's COP Alex Mensah. What you just saw was the second day of his appearance before the 7-member ad hoc committee set up by the Speaker of Parliament to probe this leaked audio tape, which captures a plot to allegedly have the president remove the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akuffo Dampare. Well, he says that he has intel that suggests that Dr. George Akuffo Dampare was the one who released this. But you earlier saw us also play that video of Daniel Bugri Nabu, the former Northern Regional Chair of the NPP, which we're going to play again, admitting that indeed he recorded the said video for the president. Now, it's a cocktail of contradictions, shocking revelations, and indeed, Bugri Nabu making the committee's work very easy for them by admitting that he recorded this tape. This morning, we have a big conversation for God and country, especially taking into consideration the crucial role of the Ghana Police Service and how the extent of politics we are seeing in there threatens their work and our own lives as a people. We have a conversation on the happenings before the 7-member ad hoc committee probing the leaked audio this morning. Fortunately, we have the vice chair of that committee joining us in the studio. We'll hear from him. Also, an Accra High Court has ordered the special prosecutor to unfreeze Cecilia Dapare's bank accounts. You recall that the special prosecutor went in search of an order to freeze Cecilia Dapare's accounts, which he says contains tainted money. Well, the judge says the special prosecutor failed to convince him, reason why he should grant him that order to freeze the account. He's been ordered within 7 days to unfreeze these accounts. What does all of this say? Did the special prosecutor fail to do the very elementary things that is expected of him in a case like this? And what signal does it send, especially to many who believe that all this is staged and nothing but just a comedy of events? Our last conversation this morning, there's been another coup d'etat on the continent of Africa. This is the 9th coup in the last 3 years. 6 out of the 9 has happened in the West African sub-region. Gabon is the latest. We'll tell you exactly what this really sends in terms of a message to the continent and the democracy that we're practicing. That's the conversation we have this morning here on Key Point. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okansi. Right after this quick break, my guest will join me in the studio. We would have a conversation on Key Point. On behalf of the team, welcome. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Life can get hectic, and sometimes we forget to prioritize our well-being. That's where Vano Mineral Water steps in. A refreshing solution packed with essential minerals, Vano Mineral Water keeps you hydrated and balanced. Whether you're at home or work, Vano Mineral Water is there to keep you going. Don't let a busy schedule hinder your health. Make Vano Mineral Water a part of your daily routine. Share the love with Vano Mineral Water, the choice for a healthy, vibrant you.
This advert is FDA approved.
Artificial intelligence, creativity and sustainability. Join this year's Africa Rising 6, brought to you by the International Advertising Association IAA at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, as we uncover the power of building future-ready brands on 5th and 6th September. Speakers Sasan Saidi, World Chairman and President, International Advertising Association; Andrew Techiapia, Co-Founder and MD, ZPay; Letepu Machaba, Independent Business Leader, former Vice President of Home Care, Unilever; Ivan Moroki, CEO, Kanta South Africa; Guy Parker, Chief Executive, Advertising Standards Authority, United Kingdom; Steve Papaiko, CEO, Extreme Ideas; Sami Awuku, Director General, National Lottery Authority, and many more. This conference is sponsored by Margins Group, ZPay, Google, MTN, GOIL and NLA, Media Partners, CNN, Media General, Graphic Communication Group. Register now at www.africarising.iaaglobal.org for more information, or contact Nanajwa on 0242 528 431 or the AAG Secretariat 0244 440477.
Are you a great FIFA player? Do you think you can beat anyone and be the very best in Ghana? The Warmer Plus Esports Festival is here to give you an experience. Join us at the forecourt of TV3. It will be a battle for supremacy in FIFA. Come around, let's smash it on the table tennis, football, and a snooker table. Kick about with family and friends. Music, food, and many more.
To run it through, Griezmann! Oh, it's there! And he has won FIFA World Cup.
So join us on this ride. It is the Warmer Plus Esports Festival, happening on 2nd September 2023. Powered by 3 Sports. The Warmer Plus Esports Festival is brought to you by Rush Energy Drink, Mega 6 Lottery.
Unveiling the soul of our culture through the universal language of music and dance on Ghana's Most Beautiful. This week, our remarkable contestants take you on a journey into our heritage.
I still can't erase the memory of how my friend was raped, and due to her inability to confide in anyone,
bringing to life the essence of our traditions, sharing the captivating stories woven into our indigenous music and dance forms. Tune in for a mesmerizing episode this Sunday. Remember, it's another eviction week, and to keep your favorite contestant in the competition, dial *713*13# or download the TV3 reality app to vote. GMB 2023, Ghana's beauty, Africa's pride.
GMB 2023 is sponsored by Gino Tomato Mix, GTP, Techno Camon 20 Series, AT, Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula, Geisha Moringa and Geisha Black Soup, Key Soap, Bell Pack Tissues, Sankofa Natural Spices, Vitamilk, Deluxe Acrylic Paint, Nescofa Blood Tonic, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, Enapa Foods, Freedom from Casapreco,
Frutelli Calipo,
Duffy's Health and Beauty, Obuasi Bitters, Nubna Womwankasa, Dragnet, Shalatem, Top Choco, Global Wings Travel and Tour.
Makeup was done by House of Tara.
Here to win? Aha! We will be busting your brains. You know how we do now. April showers brings diligence is the
mother of something. Mother of
yes. All roads lead to you see. Why did you spell holy with HOLI?
Come and see.
You don't cast.
Here to Win shows Saturdays at 8 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Kill It Insecticide Spray,
Gino Tomato Mix.
I'm a hero from zero up to hero.
Many with great voices have taken their chance on the biggest music reality show on screen.
Rap na kasa be my career.
Some stood out with their lyrical abilities and style. Mentor is back. The search is on. Who becomes the next winner? Mentor, the world awaits you.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Would you be good enough to tell us the rest of the individuals that you were engaged in that conversation with?
Well, one Commander Asari.
Okay, please go slowly, yes.
Police commander.
Yes.
But I don't know which district or which region or which section he commands. There was one man also later joined called Commander COP Mensah.
Okay.
That he's on leave now prior to his retirement. Yeah, he was also part of it.
Yes.
Since I cannot keep everything they were talking to me at that point, it was very, very good to record them so that I know the president. If I tell him something, he'll follow up with the truth. Next time he will not give me respect. You know him and I know him. So the best thing was to ensure that When I tell him, he asked me, "Are you sure?" I said, "Well, this is the tape. I don't want to miss it. You listen to it."
Mr. Chair, that is not wholly correct.
What is wholly correct?
Mr. Chair, what I admit as correct is that I had a meeting with Mr. Puklinabu, but we didn't have any plan to remove the IGP because I don't remove IGP and I don't appoint IGP. The audio that I listened here today is edited version of the conversations that we had. And because of that, wholly, this audio that we listened is not genuine. Mr. Chairman, as I sit here, if I can tell you from first minute to the last minute of all those things that was in the audio, for me to reproduce to you what is genuine and what is not genuine, then I'll be lying.
You've indicated that meanwhile this IGP is not correct. What has he done?
Honorable Chair, I will not deny that fact today, tomorrow, or the next day. I will make that statement again. That the current Inspector General of Police is not managing the police service well. It's something I will not run away from. I will say it everywhere, anywhere that I go. And you can do your own investigations, call police officers underground, and find out from them. My concern was and is that as we speak, majority of police officers are not happy. And remember, police officers, they vote. Their wives vote. Their children vote. Their mothers and fathers vote. That is my concern.
It should jolt your memory and you need to accept that, yes, that's my voice. That is all that we're trying to achieve, And let's get it that simple and it will be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But my problem is that because of technology, you might hear some voices that looks like your voice, but you don't remember saying those things because anybody can put anything anywhere. Sometimes you can see your picture, which is not even yours, but it's your picture. My intel suggests that what was used to tape the conversation was done by the current IGP. He sent some people to do it, and after which he went for it. So the tape from my intel is with the IGP, and he caused it to be leaked. So if this committee wants the tape, the right person to call before this committee is the Inspector General of Police.
You can decide what you make of what you heard COP Alex George Mensah talking about, and then also the matters arising with respect to COP George Akuffo Dampare. And this week has been a week of very interesting revelations before this 7-member ad hoc committee established by the Speaker of Parliament to look into this leaked audio capturing that plot to have the president sack the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akuffo Dampare. Well, COP Alex Mensah says he's going to stand anywhere to still repeat that same statement. A number of things that he confirmed was him on that tape, that the IGP is not managing the police service well. He says And yesterday, he took that opinion a notch higher, saying the IGP is the worst that he has witnessed over the last 31 years of his service as a police personnel. I've been joined in studio by the Member of Parliament for the Asante Achim North constituency on the ticket of the MPP, Andy Apiakubi. Good morning, Honorable. Good morning, my brother. Let me also welcome a Professor of Political Science at the University of Ghana, Professor Ransford Jampo. Good morning, Professor Ransford Jampo.
Good morning.
Also, joining us is the Honorable James Agalga. He is the Vice Chair of this 7-member committee. Also, the Deputy ranking on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, having served in that ministry as a Deputy Minister, he understands the workings of this particular issue that is being investigated. Stay with me. With this conversation, we are mindful of the limits of him being a Vice Chair of the committee, so we are guided. Martin Kpepo is private legal practitioner. He is the convener of the one of three individual bondholder groups, and then also the Kumipreko Reloaded demonstration. He'll be joining us in a bit. But gentlemen, good morning, welcome. And for you, our listeners on 3FM 92.7 as well, thank you for joining us. Now, let me start off with you, James Agalga. The admissions by Bugri Nabu, Daniel Bugri Nabu, who is the former Northern Regional Chair of the NPP, that indeed this voice is authentic. He recorded it. In fact, he sent some people to a mall in Accra to go and buy the recorder and record it. It's made the job of the committee a lot easier, is it not? I mean, right from the get-go this week, confirming that, in fact, in revealing the identities of the other two voices on this leaked audio, isn't it?
Yes, Alfred, good morning, and good morning to my co-panelists. Yes, so the committee, it's an ad hoc committee, and we started off by guiding ourselves with the terms of reference. Mm-hmm. And a key term of reference for the committee's work was for us to establish the authenticity of the leaked tape, which went viral. Now, that was a hurdle that we needed to jump. Fortunately for us, the first witness, Chief Bugri Nabu, when he appeared, he admitted without any difficulties that the tape was actually recorded by him, and therefore it was authentic. He identified his own voice and said, yes, he was the one captured on the tape, and he had a conversation with two other police officers, namely COP Alex Mensah and Superintendent Asari. If that is anything to go by, at least the committee's work was made a little more, a bit easier. But you see, beyond that, Bugri Nabu is not the only person who spoke in that audio. Mm-hmm. And so we needed to go a step further to further authenticate what is captured, in that tape. Now, the second witness did not also deny, and let me borrow his own words, wholly, the fact that it is his voice which is captured on the audio. Except that what he says is that aspects of the audio may have been doctored.
And did he show, after the over 1 hour break you gave him, indicate exactly which areas have been doctored? Because you gave him the transcript of the tape.
Yes.
Plus the audio.
Yes. We gave him the transcript, and he did some juxtapositions. Because the committee, in order to make its work easier, decided to have the audio transcribed. So if you watch the proceedings, we would normally make reference to the transcript because you cannot have the clerks replay the audio. I mean, any time you want to make reference to a particular statement captured in that audio. So the transcript is to make the work of the committee easier. But at some point, counsel for the witness, COP Alex Mensah, demanded that we should furnish him with a copy of the transcript. And we obliged, you know, because this is not a witch hunt. The witnesses who appear before us are supposed to be treated very fairly. So we granted them the opportunity to peruse the transcript and to mark portions of the transcript they think are not coherent with the audio. Because at some point, those were some of the claims the witness made. Now, when we gave them the opportunity, you notice that we went on break to afford them the opportunity to juxtapose the two and identify where there were challenges. They marked some portions of the transcript and indicated that even though those aspects were captured in the audio, they had doubts whether those aspects of the audio are doctored or not. And so, as part of the investigation, the committee would have to establish whether those aspects they claim are not attributable to them are genuine or not. So that is where we are. We have not concluded with the investigations. Further witnesses would be called. And when they come, we would see whether they would also, for instance, Superintendent Alex Mensah, if you listen to the audio, is supposed to have been part of the conversation. We would see whether when he takes his turn, he would admit that it is his voice which is captured alongside the voices of Chief Bugri Nabu and COP Alex Mensah. And from that point, we would be able to make certain key findings of fact to guide us as we continue with our sittings.
Now, how do you reconcile this position, Bugri Nabu admitting that he indeed recorded this audio? He says he wanted to give it to the president, right? He went to Accra Mall to go and buy the recorder and so on. And this other position by COP George Alex Mensah yesterday, that based on his intel, it is the IGP that masterminded the recording of that conversation and leaked it. When Bugri Nabu had come to sit before you 4 days ago to say, well, I recorded this.
Yes, so Alfred, you see, we are in the process of eliciting evidence from witnesses we think are relevant to the work of the committee. Now, one witness appears and says, look, I did the recording. He takes full responsibility. Now, as to what motivated him to do the recording, he said, look, the issues that were raised frightened him, and he felt that it was necessary for him to have at least some evidence with which to report to His Excellency the President. That is his view. Now, a second witness comes and says, look, he knows who is the mastermind behind the recording and mentions the name of the IGP. Now, what do you expect the committee to do in those circumstances? When we are done eliciting evidence from all the witnesses who would be called, we would evaluate the evidence at the end of the day, decide, make determinations as to which witness was credible, what was the demeanor of the witness when he made certain statements. We would also try to establish whether some of the things said by witnesses have been corroborated. So corroboration would be very important in determining what way to attach to the testimonies of the various witnesses. Further, if there is additional evidence to support the assertions made by some of the witnesses, definitely would be looking at those pieces of evidence. Now, the IGP has been mentioned. as a committee, we have not taken a decision whether it will be necessary in the circumstances to call the IGP to, as it were, assist the committee to establish the veracity of the very serious allegation made by the COP Alex Mensah. Like I said, it's early days yet. When the committee meets, we definitely would be taking all these things into account in deciding what to do next by way of calling witnesses.
I see. Atachians, your chair of the committee, which you are the vice chair, says that there's a likelihood, it is likely that you would invite the IGP to appear before the committee. He said this on tape. In fact, we have that video. We'll play it as we go on. Yes.
There's no question about that. Alfred, you see, my good friend is a lawyer. That as a committee, we're guided by the rules of fairness. Rules of natural justice apply. Now, when a witness takes a stand and makes a very serious allegation that he has intelligence that somebody is behind a certain tape which has gone viral, and the issues raised in that tape are very serious, do you leave it at that? If you leave it at that and make certain findings of fact, won't those findings be impeachable? They may be impeachable. So in order to put matters beyond doubt and to make your findings acceptable, you may want to give the opportunity to the person who has been mentioned. You'd also realize that the witness didn't just end there. He indicated further that he believes there is the fuller version of the tape, which is in the public domain, the tape that is before the committee right now, and that he suspects that the full tape would be with the IGP. If we were to question him, we probably would find the fuller version of the tape. We need to establish all these facts in order to make findings of fact that can stand the test of time. But like I said, the committee has not sat down to take a decision that we're going to call the IGP. That is why the chairman's words were used in, in a manner that leaves room for the possibility of not calling him. So he was careful because we haven't taken a decision to invite the IGP yet. We may. There is the probability that when we sit as a committee, it might become necessary to take the decision to invite the IGP to come and assist us. If we don't do that, we may be unfair to him. Well, because if we're to find that IGP in our recommendations was the one who actually created conditions for the recording, when we haven't heard him, that would occasion some injustice. A clear miscarriage of justice would be occasioned. So we wouldn't do that. We would give everybody
your terms of reference,
opportunity to be heard.
I see. We'll look at your terms of reference. But there's also been that concern that you would also be mindful of the fact that in as much as you may be considering inviting the IGP because it's been mentioned, your focus will not be taken away from the core reason, the core reference, term of reference of this committee, because there's a suspicion that maybe the COP Mensah is only employing a strategy of lifting the focus of him to the IGP, and you forgetting the details of this tape, which is actually the fundamental reason why the committee, has been set up in the first place.
Alfred, you see, we are mindful. And that is why, if you would recall, when the COP Alex Mensah appeared before the committee, I refreshed the memory of the committee and even the witness that were guided by terms of reference. We're not going to depart from the terms of reference in our attempt to elicit evidence from, the COP Alex Mensah. We did that. So we are very mindful about the fact that we have to be guided by terms of reference.
Okay.
But you see, having said that, listen to the sequence. A witness appears and says, I have doubts. It is possible that my voice has been mimicked. Now, I am not too sure that this particular tape is complete. There may be a full version, and that full version is probably in the custody of somebody who he says is the mastermind behind the creation of that tape or the recording of that tape. With those facts before you, do you just dismiss the testimony, right? If that is the line it takes. So, like I said, when the committee sits, we're going to take all these factors into account in determining whether it is necessary to call the IGP or not. But we certainly would not depart from the terms of reference.
Let's see the terms of reference of this 7-member committee, just for our viewers and our listeners on 3FM as well to be guided, because this is an issue that has come up as well, so that in all you are doing, you would also have that in mind and not lose the reason why you've been served as a committee. This is it. The first one has been ticked for you. That is the authenticity of the leaked audio recording. Bugri Nabu has helped you to achieve this one. The second one, investigate the conspiracy to remove the IGP, which is the details of this tape. Then the third is investigate any other matter contained in the audio recording, any other matter, and recommend sanctions to persons found culpable where appropriate. And then also make recommendations for reforms where necessary, and make such other recommendations and consequential orders as a committee may deem appropriate. This is it not?
Yes, those are the terms of reference, Alfred.
So, see, you followed the committee's work this week and the pronouncements that were made. I know you have a forensics person on attached to the committee, right?
No, but he's not a forensics person per se.
But who
Dr. Annan is a lawyer by training. And so he is like a technical advisor to the committee, sort of, but he's not a forensics person.
So if you have to authenticate whether COP's Alex Mensah's voice is doctored or otherwise, which he is saying that he suspects it might be doctored, what are you going to do?
If it becomes necessary, what the committee has at its disposal, the resources that would make it possible for us to do a good job. So if it becomes necessary for us to hire the assistance of a voice expert, why not? We shall do so.
I see. And the Kubi, on this, in fact, COP Alex Mensah said a number of things, including, but not limited to, the fact that, one, he has been lobbying to be IGP since 2017. He wasn't promoted for 9 years because his party wasn't in power. He has confirmed that he's a sympathizer of your party, the MPP, and that he believes, in his view, that it is because of his association. That's why he wasn't promoted for 9 years.
You were silent on that.
And that in his view, the IGP is mismanaging the Ghana Police Service because of the way he is promoting people. Because other people have been promoted and other persons who have been serving for long have not been. But he admits that the criteria being employed is not wrong, but it's a departure from the norm.
Yeah, first and foremost, let me greet our cherished viewers, particularly people from my constituency, Asante Atindof, who are probably watching us. For me, I will ask two simple questions. Whether or not this man is being represented by counsel. Is that the case?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Now, are we doing...
In fact, he has two lawyers, actually.
Are we doing our listeners a service by not even informing them of the issues that culminated in the forming of the committee? Because some people are watching us for the first time, don't forget. And we start from the middle of the whole case, and we are seeking to advertise the terms of reference of the committee to them without going into the facts that generated the creation of the committee and therefore the terms of reference. I'm sure you could quickly,
in fact,
go back and just inform the public why we had to form the committee.
Because you joined me after I had done the introduction.
Oh, is that the case?
In my introduction,
no, I was here.
I laid the basis. My introduction before we went for the break and came back, I laid the basis for this committee's work. In fact, reason why we are at this point, that there has been a leaked audio. In fact, even before the first question I asked James Agalga, there was a reference to what led to this point, where there's a leaked audio. Bugri Nabu has come to confirm the details of the leaked audio, which captures an alleged plot to have the president remove the IGP. A committee was established. Bugri Nabu appears before the committee. He says, well, I recorded this tape. It's a conversation between myself, COP Alex Mensah, and Superintendent Sari, and then mentions one Superintendent JB, who appeared before the committee and says, look, I've not even met Bugri Nabu before. I don't know him. COP Alex Mensah comes and says, well, I am confirming aspects of this tape that indeed it's my voice on the tape, but I suspect that some aspects have been doctored. That's what the committee is saying, that if they have to employ the Service of Forensics person to confirm that it's been doctored, they will do so. Now he goes on to make a number of statements, including the fact that one is a sympathizer of the NPP. He's not been promoted, or he wasn't promoted for 9 years. When the NDC was in power, he did not deny the fact that there is some level of politicking in the Ghana Police Service, and then also in his view that the IGP is the worst that he's come across over the last 31 years of his service as a top police officer. Does that suffice? Does it suffice for you?
That's good enough for the background, so that our cherished viewers will understand why we are discussing these issues.
Shall we proceed now?
When he says that the witness is being represented by counsel, then that retires my supplementary question. And I asked that question because of the Supreme Court's ruling in the case of Raphael Kubaji versus Asari and others. And the Supreme Court said in that case that recording a party without his consent brings out inadmissible evidence. It's evidence which is inadmissible.
See, recording a party?
A party in a matter without his consent. And it's a violation of the privacy of that person as per the Constitution of Ghana in Article 18.2. That's the ruling of the Supreme Court.
But had the Supreme Court also not ruled, giving consideration that if the breach of the said privacy is in the interest of the public, then it will be considered? I'm sure that there's been a case, there's some precedents making reference to this particular provision of the Supreme Court.
I'm coming. There is a Supreme Court in that ruling made reference. It is Aka Accra versus Agric Development Bank, 2016-2017. And there was reference to the case, U.S. case of Ozuzu versus the Republic, the public interest reference. But in this particular case, Supreme Court has not determined the public interest situation in this particular case and sort of considered the exceptions in this case. So the presumption would be that the position of the Supreme Court, and don't forget that the reference to the Ozuzu case is a foreign case, and it is not binding on the Supreme Court, neither is it even binding on our lower courts, except that it's for value for reference. Understand? So
I see, but does the Supreme Court have to sit to determine whether the precedence does apply in this case?
That's correct. That's what I'm saying. But the committee has not considered that and has taken it upon itself that because the Supreme Court says that exceptions to the rule apply where the public interest is likely to be compromised, the committee has started right from there without reference to the Supreme Court in the determination whether or not it's part of it can qualify for the exemptions. And I asked the question whether he is represented because of such situations. Raising objections.
But have you listened to the details of this tape? And why do you question that it does not satisfy the requirement of this precedence that it threatens the peace of this country and is in the interest of the public? The details of this tape, have you listened?
For me, I would not assume authority in such determination because I would think that that determination lies with the court of competent jurisdiction. And for that matter, I would think that the Supreme Court will have to make a pronouncement on this. But we ourselves, as for the want of a better word, lay persons in a situation like this, assuming jurisdiction and pronouncing on tendered tape, recorded tape, without qualifying for the validity and admissibility test, I am at a loss. I would have thought that let us scale over that barrier and then we can go into the merits based on the facts in the case. But we have assumed jurisdiction because we think that it qualifies for one of the exceptions as determined in the Supreme Court case. And that is where I have my worry. And that is why I asked whether the witness is represented by counsel.
He is.
And
two
when
lawyers.
you say that he is, then there may also be a presumption of a waiver of such a right, which ordinarily I would not have waived. But if the counsel thinks that you have to waive this and go into the merits, that's fine. But that is only one of the points. And one of the issues that my brother raised was that Mr. what's his name, Bugri Nebu, felt frightened by the contents of the conversation, and that is why he recorded it. Is it a case that he contemplated such fright in a perceived conversation ahead of them and then activated the equipment to make the recording? Is it the case? Or is it a case that he had predetermined that he was going to record him and recorded him? Or is it the case that the recording was induced by the fright that occasioned him? So these are all, that is why I'm challenging sort of the admissibility of the tape itself. Was it preconditioned that we will record this man in a conversation? Was it a predetermined attempt at violating the privacy of the witness? All these questions, I would want them asked and responded to for us to come to a determination whether or not there was, the witness is saying that he suspects some prejudice. He suspects some connivance. You see, so when issues like that are being raised, and this man is saying that he recorded because of the content that he couldn't have anticipated before the beginning of the conversation. So that at least pricks my mind to investigate whether there was a pre-planned intention to record or what. And if it was, then what was the purpose of the conversation and what was the purpose of the recording? But I leave that to the witness himself and his counsel, because these are issues that counsel should have investigated. Somebody comes to mention the client's name in a conversation that is recorded and says that, yes, I recorded because I got frightened because of the content, which content was not at his disposal before the beginning of the conversation.
Well, but if you did listen to Bugri Nabo, and I keep making reference to the fact that if you did listen, because he indicated before the committee, and James Agalga, correct me, he said that there had already been a communication between them, that's these three, setting up the meeting. So prior to that meeting, which was recorded, he had already been told the reason why these two wanted to meet him. They had called him that they wanted to meet him on a specific issue.
On a subject.
On that subject of the IGP.
But not the content.
And the reason why he, based on the prior conversation they have had, that is these two, COP Alex Mensah and also Superintendent Asare with him, Bugri Nabo, he then thought it wise
to record it,
to have it on tape, so that when he goes to the president, he would have evidence, because he's going to be asked by the president.
Wait a minute.
So did Bugri Nabo, did he say that prior to this said meeting, which was recorded, he had had a conversation with the two?
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
He said that he had had conversation with the two. That the subject matter is IGP and his position. But he did not indicate the content, which would otherwise frighten Bugri Nabo to contemplate recording the discussion. So much as the subject matter had been discussed before the meeting, the content, the source of the fright had not been discussed. So I'm saying that it is not out of goodwill that he started the recording, because he had contemplated recording it for a purpose known to him alone. And I asked one other question. Did he know of the recording? And the answer is no. He didn't know.
Who know?
Did the parties, Mr. Mensah, did he know of the recording? And the answer is no. That is why I'm beginning to think that it was pre-planned for them to record the conversation without the knowledge of the Mr. Mensah, as it were. And that is my source of worry. If he ever had the intention of recording the conversation, that didn't stop him from seeking the consent of the witness. Because if you had pre-planned that, because I'm frightened, because we have had earlier conversation bordering on the position of IGP, and that I intend to record the conversation, nothing stops him from telling him that, because I want you to be on record, so that in my conversation with the president, I'll be able to refer to this discussion. And he didn't do that. And he secretly...
It appears that you are, so your initial concerns are about the technicalities of this case. But I have just pointed to you, because I mean, you are a lawyer
that is why I'm interested in the privacy, protecting the privacy.
If you know that the law that borders on privacy is not whole and absolute, there are exceptions
to be determined by
which the precedence for these exceptions gives us a clear indication of where these exemptions are applied. They are not applied in oblivion. If there is no precedence, then you can say that the committee exercised their discretion without guidance.
The precedence...
But I am only saying to you that you are only concerned, I mean, these first two concerns you have established. But how about the details of this tape? It doesn't concern you in any way?
We need to scale the problem of admissibility before we go into discussions of the content, to be honest with you. And I'm referring to a breach of the constitutional right of the witness, and which I asked a few questions and you have cleared. And for me, the question was whether or not his counsel...
Well, he has counsel. Counsel didn't raise objections, so let's move on.
So what I'm saying is that I want to understand the rationale behind the recording. And you are telling me that there was an earlier conversation that they would come into a meeting to discuss the position of the IGP without going into details of what they were to discuss. And that prompted Mr. Bugri to think of recording and planning and recording. So I'm saying that in all this, she didn't also act in good faith, much as issues of national security probably would have been raised or may have been raised. If the witness had prior knowledge of the intention to record, probably the situation would have been different. So what I'm saying is that let's test the admissibility first. And the committee had a terms of reference. The terms of reference require of them to pronounce on the admissibility or otherwise. And if they were confronted with issues of challenge, because I understand that they raised a challenge on the admissibility of the tape in the meeting. So at that point, what prevented the committee also in seeking a determination, as you are trying to do, that based on the circumstances, based on the content, they were right to admit it.
But I thought that was the conversation that ensued at the committee level when this objection was raised.
And we took into account the Raphael Kubaji case, the relevant constitutional provisions,
and the
Article 18.2, and satisfied ourselves that
you were seized with jurisdiction.
We were seized with jurisdiction
to make that determination.
No.
Okay,
issues were raised with regards to the admissibility of the audio before us. And we took into consideration relevant authorities, the Constitution, and satisfied ourselves that it was within our remit
to make that determination.
Not to make a determination in the light of the determinations made to proceed with the hearing.
Right.
And admit,
of course,
the tape.
Guided by the available authorities, the jurisprudence available to the committee, and constitutional provisions, we satisfied ourselves that the matters raised in that audio are of a public interest nature, and therefore we could, as a committee, deal with the matter.
Well,
so we are not oblivious of the authorities you have cited.
All right, good.
We adverted our minds to them.
So,
but what I would suggest would be at this point that to challenge the decision to admit the tape in evidence. Witness can do it.
I see.
But I think what capacity? Your contribution this morning is actually nation reckon. I'm telling you, your contribution is nation reckon. You are not. You are not helping the discussion here. No.
What
authority? You are actually not promoting national interest this morning. I am disappointed. I'm disappointed.
No, you think that you are promoting national interest.
Professor Jampo,
who gives you that authority?
No.
Professor Jampo, you have not been given the right to speak. Professor Jampo.
What disservice am I doing? You want me to come and support your case?
Counsel, you make
is that your case?
Counsel, you had
please, I think you should withdraw that statement.
No.
I'm doing
Professor Jampo, I have not invited you into this conversation. let's maintain some decorum.
And I'm behaving.
I said
as
this
a
particular contribution is nation reckon.
Nation reckon,
Yes.
meaning that I am a nation reckon.
Well, I mean,
okay, Mr. Piakubi.
You can't say
Mr. Piakubi.
Relax. We have to have tough skin for this.
Mr. Piakubi.
I'm not saying you are a nation record. I said this particular contribution is nation record.
You go on.
And there is a plot to overturn.
To make that determination.
Mr. Piakubi,
I am making my submission.
You go on.
And you go on to make
Mr. Piakubi.
this hopeless.
Oh, no. Mr. Piakubi, do that. Please.
Cause me a nation.
Nation, that's nothing. It's to be expected. Oh, it's nothing. I've been insulted.
No. The fact that you have been insulted many times doesn't mean you should insult. And he thinks that he has authority to make statements about people. That was the reason. I want
comment
to.
of yours.
I detest that. I take particular offense.
Gentlemen, okay.
And you don't have that right to do
Mr.
that.
Piakubi.
Yes.
You raised that concern,
Yes,
and
I want
in
him to
the interest of this, the decorum for this particular
and
program.
I have my position. I'm setting the position.
Yes.
And
You
he
have
is
raised
not
concern
the
about
referee,
that,
he is
Professor
not the judge
Jampo.
in what I say.
Yes, Professor Jampo.
And let him
that
show
did not
humility to
rub
me.
on him well, and I know the fact that
I've
you
not
would
said it's a nation
explain.
record.
Yes, just you would
I
explain,
haven't
but
said you're a nation
because
record.
Professor Jampo,
I said this
Professor
particular
Jampo,
comment of yours
to
is
ensure
it's
some decorum.
It's not promoting the national interest.
Who invited you to that conversation?
Oh, but are we not having a conversation? Don't you interject? Don't you interject?
No.
Professor Jampo, you would have to, Professor Jampo.
Which is for public consumption. Some testimonies and pieces of evidence might have national security implications. And therefore, in-camera hearing is one of the ways to, address a problem. So when we come to terms with that, why not? We invite him. It is not every testimony which is for public consumption. Some testimonies and pieces of evidence might have national security implications. And therefore, in-camera hearing is one of the ways to, address a problem. So when we come to terms with that, why not? We invite him.
Held before the committee or to be invited in relating to the matters in issue. Is this a request that the committee would consider?
It's a likelihood.
Well, so that's the chair of the committee. Now, Professor Ransford Jampo.
It's not got into my turn.
No.
Yes, my turn.
I would want.
I'll see what I have to say.
Yes, but to ensure that this program, as you have committed to, proceeds with some decorum, I would want you to withdraw that statement that you made earlier because it did not wrap off well.
Yeah, he knows
respectfully.
I didn't mean
yes, indeed. Yes,
indeed.
Respectfully.
He knows I didn't mean malice.
Okay.
He's my senior.
Okay.
So I withdraw it.
All right.
Thank you.
But
then Piakubi lie withdraw too much.
Thank you. All right. Okay. I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you because that issue of the public interest, which Andy Piakubi dwelt on for quite a while in his submission, what does the law say about the instances where this element of public interest can actually be set aside or be considered so that the issue of privacy would not supersede or take precedence over the public interest?
Okay. Yeah, so one comment on this Piakubi and this withdraw matter. You see, look, even the law on defamation, when it comes to public interest and politicians especially, the standard is higher. When you insult a politician, there has to show to be malice. If there's no malice, no, you go.
Okay.
So there's a case called New York Times versus Sullivan.
Okay,
that's taught in law school. Politicians,
yes.
They hit you. That's how people can tell the president he's corrupt, he's a thief, this, and Okay. See, President Akufo-Addo is
the issue has been settled. Yes.
As I said nothing, now Akufo-Addo is receiving some. That's the law. New York Times versus Sullivan.
It's been settled. Yes. Okay, thank you. It's been
and
settled.
that's why we are also Kumado taught you the same thing. You and I were
Lawyer Martin Kpebu, it's been settled. Let's move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when there's no milice,
thank you. It's been settled. It's not between you and him. It's not between you and him. Please.
All right. Yeah. So the public interest.
We should be procedural.
Okay. You've answered that question. You've answered that question. Thank you. You've answered that question. Please move on.
Yeah. So I'm also interested in this. So did the police announce why they are closing the road leading to Jubilee House?
There was some announcement that
was
there
an announcement? No, I've not. I just got there.
We didn't hear of any announcement.
Yes. So I was wondering whether they are scared of Gabon.
No. Nothing of that sort of thing.
This is also
nothing.
It's a question.
Lawyer Martin Kpebu, please move on.
But honorable today, why?
Okay,
I'm not going to
gentlemen.
sit down for you to be.
You've made your point. You've made your point. Thank you, Lawyer Martin Kpebu, move on.
All right, yeah, public interest. And Raphael Kubeji versus Asare. This public interest. The Supreme Court has made it very clear that look, when it comes to this admissibility, so there's the ratio moving forward. They say it will be determined on a case by case basis. Case by case. So let it go through the trial course.
That's what I'm saying.
But this one is a committee. So if the lawyers and this Mensa, COP Mensa, thought that it's doctored and so it should not be admitted, they would have said so. They don't have such a problem. Honorable, me, I've watched the. Why should you be? No, you know it's against the law to fund litigation. Is it called chapentry? Lawyers, chapentry.
Okay.
Is it chapentry or chapentry? No, don't fund litigation. No. Don't fund litigation. It's against the law. We don't fund litigation. He's ably represented. They don't think. Did you hear him say? He said, look, some of the statements. He says, look, IG is not managing the police council, the police service well. He will say it today, tomorrow, and the day after. The MPP is his party. He's not running away from it. Look, he was born into the UP family. So many things. He's saying them, repeating. No, I might say it's wrong. I'm telling you that he's telling you that, look, these statements, he's not running away from his own statements. So why should you listen?
So, let me state this. Mr. Apiakobi.
Yes, sir.
There's nothing wrong
with
if I say
Mr.
what is wrong with that?
I am going to... Every time you speak without me giving you the indication or authorization to do so, I would deduct it from your next round of submission. I want you to be limited. You are a member of parliament.
No,
you don't just respectfully. You don't just get up to speak when the speaker hasn't even given you the right to speak.
Yeah, but
please, let's respect that. Mr. Apiakobi, that has been withdrawn as you requested, and we are moving on.
Yes.
Let's move on in some level of
some people were said to have been thieves. I remember somebody
so you were making the point about this provision in the law.
That time you were in opposition, you were happy. When Esla was calling JM a thief.
But when I said you can say all of us thieves.
So what happened?
This is not a part of the conversation.
So the Supreme Court says it will be on a case-by-case basis. And it's good you refer to Abner Pukua Aka, but in law we just use the same name, Aka versus ADB. You know, in Aka versus ADB, a journalist recorded an ADB employee who was criticizing management of ADB for how they were running the bank, etc. The case went through to the Supreme Court, and they said, but this matter, she can comment, right? Yeah, she can comment. It's of public interest. So if you look at what these people are discussing in the tape, rigging elections in 2024, and Mr. Appiah could come and sit here and say, please, let's not kid ourselves. COP Mensa is saying that, look, this current IGP will not work towards their victory in 2024. So he needs to be taken out. And you are saying what? What are you saying? Say that again. Please, let's stop.
No.
Yeah, you can come in if you want.
No. I am not granting that invitation.
So please,
there are specific instances.
Very, very, very clear. And don't even forget, the man, COP Mensa says that is IG who orchestrated the recording. Oh, these are very serious matters for a sitting IG. So these are matters that have to be gone into. And so look, as for this tape, I can bet you any day, anywhere, it will be this is admissible. And that's how come COP Mensah is not running away from it. He's not running away. He said, look, the MPP is my party. I'm not running away from it. And then he said, why? He was born into the UP. Born into the UP. His family has always been UP. And of course, we all know that from UP, it became MPP. Or let's say the MPP will say that their roots are the UP. And you know the people who were in UP, JH Mensah, all the people, Obechebi, Lamte's father, Buzia, etc. So we don't even need to go in there. So please, let's not waste time on matters that are not in controversy. Okay. So if going by the Supreme Court decision that, look, on a case-by-case basis, and also when the public interest, national security, prevention of crime are looming large, sex tapes will be what? Admissible. It appears to me that applying the Supreme Court decision to this particular one, it will be admissible. So let me repeat. The context is that, so right. When we say admissible, so we are talking about situations in which somebody records you without your consent, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's being recorded without your consent, but what we're talking about is crime, right? We're talking about crime, things that would destabilize this nation from the Supreme Court decision in Raphael Kubeji and Asari, and also ACA versus ADB. It applies. We are lawyers. We read precedent, then we apply. This is admissible. And even before these Supreme Court decisions, every lawyer, you ask lawyers, they'll tell you. There's one case, if you go to law school, I mean, when I say I'm talking to viewers, of course, some are even lawyers. I'm sure they will even send text messages and the rest will corroborate. There's no way you go to law school without learning R versus Singh. It's a British case where they will tell you that evidence, even if you steal it, is admissible in court. So you have a case, and then you know that the evidence is in somebody's room. You break in, steal it in order to come and, tender it in evidence. The main thing is that the parent needs weight. It's admissible. That's one principle that this Honorable Agaga, you are here. R versus Singh, those are some of the things that you don't even need to read the case again. As soon as they tell you that, even if you go and steal the evidence, you can bring it to court. You see that it sticks, even without reading it. So it's something that many lawyers will not forget, right? Yes, so, and there are 1,001 cases where these things are there, so that the origin of the tape may not be sacrosanct. It may be riddled with a bit of illegality, but we look at the larger interest of the public. And that's where what we have chosen is different from the American jurisprudence where they do the fruit of the forbidden tree. Yeah, we don't have time to do the fruit of the forbidden tree here, okay? That American jurisprudence is different. But here, we are using this one where on a case-by-case basis, once we see that the public interest is huge, prevention of crime is very huge in this matter, it's admissible. I think that was your question. Yes, I don't want to deviate. Is that it?
Indeed, but regardless of the other aspects of his testimony that might be distasteful, I've had security analysts and indeed lawyers like yourself raise concern about some of the things he also admitted to and talked about, which are happening in the Ghana Police Service, which are quite worrying to say the least, and the depth of the politicking in there. Lawyer Matukbebu, what has to be done in the end after all of this to ensure that this particular aspect is being addressed in the interest of all of us as members of the general public, so that an election day or any other event that police is deployed and it involves political parties that they are aligned to, what that means is that we're not going to have the service with integrity, which is the motto of the Ghana Police Service, because of their alignment and association with political parties.
Well, what has to be done at the end? One thing very clear, you know, every week we come here, all the topics, at the end of the topic, then you see that it still comes back to the same constitution. This is our lopsided constitution. Very lopsided, gives the president too much power. In Article 57, 58, the other ones, appointment of the IG, police council, etc. So that is where...
So there has to be a review of that?
Yes, a review of the constitution. And you know, when the police hierarchy went before the Constitutional Review Commission, they made it very clear that, look, they don't want presidents appointing IG.
They don't want politicization.
Yes, so they don't want it. So Kofi Buachi will tell you, the speech he gave at New Year's school some years ago. So there is what? MPP police and NDC police. MPP police, NDC police. That's always been it. I mean, we are talking about the Fourth Republic, and then before then, it's always been there. When you read back police, this in history, you see that these matters have always been there. Have always been there. So it's about time. It's about time we review this constitution so that we take away a lot of the appointing powers of the president. If you look at the Constitution Review Commission, they said no. They prefer that the president continue to appoint IG because of the security implications. Yes, so when you read, Professor Jampo, you disagree, right?
Yeah,
yes.
It didn't make sense.
Well, at the time, 10 years ago, I can imagine, good old Professor Fiajo, they are older, but that was how many, 10 years ago,
Yes.
Now, 10 years on, we've moved on, our nation has become stronger, we're beginning, you see how we are suffering under Akufo-Addo, too many appointing powers, you see the hunger, everything, so now it's becoming clearer to us that no, we will not accept the Constitutional Review Commission recommendation that the president should continue to appoint IG because we've seen that it's inimical. So we have to do a constitutional review because it's bad. You can hear COP Alex Mensah saying that he has been lobbying for the position since when? 2017. Those are his words. So he's been lobbying to be IG since 2017. That's very profound. So you can imagine somebody who has made it his aim that he wants to be IG, so he's lobbying left, right, center. Oh my God. And it's good, Honorable Agaga, yesterday connected him to the IRSU West Wagon Commission, IRSU West Wagon violence. Yes, because he said he was involved at the strategic thinking. So if at the strategic level, they couldn't put in place enough measures to prevent Brian Champo and co bringing party tags in national security uniform, then what do you think? Because you are to do the strategic thinking. So how do you do your thinking in such a way that people don't infiltrate? How did the party foot soldiers, Double and the rest, how did they get to the election grounds? How? So what kind of thinking was COP Alex Mensah and his cohorts doing? So it tells you that deficit, for now we will say deficit because I don't have evidence to show that they intentionally allowed the party foot soldiers to come in national security uniform, etc. You see, but it tells you that when a man is so ambitious that he wants to be IG, yes, it's on party lines, and he's shown how George Ekufu Dampare was promoted by the NDC. So because he had been promoted during the NDC regime, then that makes him NDC. But you see, there is the part that shows a lot of beef. Because Honorable Agaga, you guys never promoted him at all for about 8 years.
He said 9 years, actually.
9 years, and so he's not forgiving you at all for that. So, look, bottom line, we want to take away this IG appointment from our presidents. We don't want it being abused like currently we see. And you see, when that happens, often the IG becomes an appendage, and by extension, the police service. They become an appendage of the executive. So they say, yes, Abongo boys, go. Then they go.
Right.
And then, So let's do the constitutional review, dear Charlie. We have to, because now we are suffering. Too much.
Wonderful.
Too much.
Thank you. And Professor Ransford Jampo, before that, let me just reiterate the point about the police notice on this roadblock, because I indicated there was a notice. If you go on their Facebook page, Public Notice Security and Traffic Management Arrangement for the 2023 Millennium Marathon in Accra. So as part of security arrangements for the 2023 Marathon in Accra, the general public, especially residents, commuters, and the motoring public within Osu and cantonment areas are being urged to take note of the following traffic arrangements. That's what has led to the block or the diversion of traffic in front of the Jubilee House. Just for the clarity.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because as I said, I was scared.
Great. So, Professor Jampo, yes.
You see,
well,
I'm
asking. Hey, I said I was scared.
No, Professor Jampo.
everything here.
Professor Jampo.
No,
Gentlemen.
If you say that one can be
Gentlemen. Professor Jampo. Yes.
I'm very happy that he has been corrected.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
Professor Jampo. I've been answered, not corrected.
Today, Honorable and
when you are in the midst of NDC thinking people like that, what do you think? All of them are not speaking the same language.
So, Professor Jampo, you proceed.
Now, you see why I do,
including myself.
Proceed.
Oh, but you are part of them.
Proceed.
Mr. Kansi, this is the last time that you ask anybody to withdraw anything.
Respectfully.
Leave it.
No.
Now, I don't need any retraction.
Lawyer Martin Gbebo, there is that, with all due respect for this program, myself and the viewers, if you say something that is out of bounds, I will tell you to withdraw it.
That's correct.
That one, I think that it has to be clear. But also, to you, Mr. Apiakubi, you cannot brand everybody here on this program who have expressed, respectfully, who have expressed their views that do not agree with yours as being NDC. They may not mind. I'm just saying, and they may not mind. Nobody really minds. But I'm only saying to you that because you also did not like it when certain references were made, you also
leave him.
Right.
I forgive him. I forgive him.
I forgive you.
I forgive you.
So, and just to put it on record, that I don't think any statement that is made out of bounds will stand. And I think we all have that understanding.
Yes.
So I would apply my authority to have you withdraw any statement that is made out of context.
No, it doesn't.
All right, thank you, Alfred. I said I'd forgiven Honorable Apiakubi, but let me say this. Let me say this, that I take serious exception to your saying that I express NDC sentiment. I think you should leave this particular comment to party fool soldiers and social media political laggards. Let them say that. They say these things, and I look at them and I laugh. When your party was in opposition, you felt that I was in bed with you, and you liked the kinds of things that I was saying. And today you are in government, and I'm doing the work that I used to do when you were in opposition, and all of a sudden you think that I express NDC sentiments. I think leave this to discerning people. Leave this to social media political laggards and party fool soldiers, and not to a person like you. Please don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's all we are saying. I am saying that. Oh, please. Okay. Please. I take exception to that. I take exception to that.
Okay.
Leave that to party fool soldiers. Please. Leave that to party fool soldiers.
I am a party fool soldier.
Okay.
You are not better than any party.
I will continue. I'll focus and continue, please.
Let this show in your life.
Oh.
Party fool
in every
gentlemen,
I think you want to destroy this program, but I'll ignore you. Let me just focus. I don't think he came here prepared for this program. I'll ignore you. In every administrative setup, there are people, Professor Achua described as demons, saints, and wizards. In every administrative setup, there are demons, there are wizards, and there are saints. Okay. Now, demons, for instance, do not like strong-willed people who are committed to loyalty, who uphold loyalty in discharging their mandate. Demons don't like. In every administrative setup. And so they will frustrate you. And they will do all things. They themselves are not competent. They themselves cannot do the work. But when they see that people are excelling and they have the strong will in carrying out their mandates, they see excellence and describe it as non-excellence. And I think that this is what IGP Dampare is suffering. We were here and Apia Kubi was asking you to narrate the genesis of this whole committee work, and I was expecting that you would have also gone into the aspect or extended the history a little to include his role he played, his very competent and impartial role he played during the ascent of by-elections. And you were here. I think it was on this platform that I said that I had heard rumors that complaints are coming, that he didn't allow a certain caliber of people to do whatever they wanted to do. And so because of that, there was rumor that people are agitated, that he should be removed. And soon after we said that, we had this tape also, leaked out there. And this is what has brought us where we are. Because the committee is doing its work, I do not really want to go. I trust in the competence of people like Agaga and other members of the committee to be interrogating the key issues. And I believe that they will be able to do a lot of service to Ghana by coming out with findings and recommendations that would help unravel some of these things saddling the police. But I believe that any description of the current IGP as the worst in 31 years, in my view, is a palpable display of mental dimension. Any description of the current IGP as the worst in 31 years is a palpable display, I'm giving my opinion too, of mental dimension. You are talking about police visibility. We saw that only around the time of Patrick Tawiakwe, it came and then it subsided. So you're talking about police visibility. We are talking about arresting all without fear or favor who ran afoul of traffic rules and offenses. You are talking about an IGP who is not sitting in the comfort of his office, but getting into nitty-gritties of things. You are talking about an IGP who is demystifying the office of the Inspector General of Police by bringing himself down to the ordinary people to be able to interact with him. We are talking about so many things. This man says he's been in the police service for 31 years. We were taught in KG, when you see the traffic light, there is something you should know. Red means stop. Yellow means get ready. Green means go. For 31 years, Ghanaians had interpreted yellow means hurry up and pass. Under this IGP, speed up in the amber and see. And you see police officers there who stop you, arrest you. For 31 years, this is happening. And so if somebody does all these things that were not being done, if somebody has the courage to arrest a member of parliament of a regime of a political party in power, of a political party that appointed him to office, he has the courage to arrest that member of parliament for violating a traffic offense. And you describe him as worst in the history of policing in Ghana or for the past 31 years. I'm saying to be charitable, this description can only come from it's a display of a certain mental dimension, and I don't I don't want to say further. Now there is a conspiracy to get a legitimately appointed IGP sacked, and there is a debate about whether this is a national interest or it shouldn't be national interest. I find, you see, when we come to sit here, I think we should do the bidding of Ghana. Okay, the idea of indulging in technicalities and legalities just so we may not be able to be forthright and candid with the truth is a great disservice to the development of Ghana. And if somebody is out there brazenly saying that I am a party man, you see, we know that excessive partisanship have undermined the effective functioning of all institutions in our part of the world. Excessive partisanship has undermined the effective functioning of public institutions. And so if you have somebody brazenly touting some of these things, and we want to sit here and applaud him for having guts, I think we are not being fair to the good people of Ghana, and we are not being fair to the effort at ensuring that we develop as a nation. And so, in my view, I think that, as I said earlier on, I would trust in the competence of the committee going about their work, and hope that they will be able to, at the end of the day, give us some recommendations that will help deal with some of the challenges of Ghana's police service.
Okay.
But I think that, no, they had a lot of time, please. These days, you are fond of limiting my time. But I think that,
you have your time.
Yeah, I think that Alex Mensah should treat Ghanaians with some respect and decorum. He should, I mean, in his utterances, he should treat the committee with some respect and decorum. He should treat Ghanaians with some respect and decorum. Telling us that you were eyeing to become an IGP for 9 years ago, for me, makes you biased. And so all the utterances that he's making are utterances that, like Martin Pebu said, show a certain personal hatred or beef he has with the IGP. And I don't think that these are comments and sentiments we should come and get them occupy our thoughts and discussion, today. Because clearly the person has a personal issue with the IGP. But if you have a personal issue with the IGP and you go spew it on tape and then you are caught, I think you should be more apologetic than saying the kinds of things that he's saying in a manner that, in my view, runs down the office of the Inspector General of Police. And it's not something that we should countenance or tolerate, as a nation, because it doesn't help. It doesn't deep or improve or shore up the morale and the confidence and the energy that people who are doing their work legitimately and excelling. It doesn't give them this booster for them to continue to do their work. And so, if people are quiet and they are allowing Alex Mensah to run down the IGP, I'm saying that the IGP is doing a good job, and we must not be quiet when people begin to run him down. It doesn't help. I mean, 2 key appointments that President Akufo-Addo made that won my heart and won my applause were the appointment of Martin Amidu and then the appointment of Dampare. Okay, and for me, it showed that he really wanted to get the job done. Okay, and I like so far, even though we asked when the rumors were going on, even though we asked that he himself should publicly, make a statement to show that he is behind the man, and he kept quiet. I mean, his quiet or silence notwithstanding, it appears that he's still standing behind the man, and I want to hope and believe that this would continue to urge the man on to do what is right, to go on with with what is fired to do. If you interact with him directly, he tells you that he is ensuring effective policing for Mother Ghana, for our children and for our children's children. He is not interested in political partisanship. He's not interested in pleasing the NDC. He's not interested in pleasing the MPP. He wants to be a police officer. And so when we come and sit here, we should be talking and making comments in commendation of people who have displayed such strong will and commitment to their mandate, and not to be involving ourselves in some other arguments that tend to fan the kinds of things that are being said that gives credence to the conspiracy to get the man out of office. I'm telling you, nobody can kick the man out of office based on these fake stories that are being bandied around and some of the things that are being said just to prepare the grounds. If Alex Mensah is is being propelled, or he's being supported to continue to mudslink the current IGP so that people can use it as a basis to demand his sack. I think that strategy is outmoded at best, and we would continue to speak up in defense and in support of those in Ghana who are committed to their mandate, those in Ghana who are loyal to their duties, those in Ghana who think Ghana and they want to do things that will promote and advance the interests of Ghana, irrespective of partisanship.
Professor Ransford Jampo, thank you. But
yes, one small comment. Hey, somebody just drew my attention to something. Hey, radio and TV is complex. So they say when I said, Mr. Okansi, this is the last time you would that amounted to a warning. That is not done. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm saying that don't ask us to.
No, it's fine. I think it's
somebody say that no, it's not done. That I'm challenging your authority. So the rules are many.
I reminded you of that, so I don't think it's. You have understood that, okay. So it's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
At least that you have the understanding.
Yes.
We can move on.
Okay.
And James Agalga. So in the end, what's the end game for this committee? I think the most important thing is the recommendations as to what has to be done, because in other jurisdictions, when these things happen, it leads to some permanent reforms to ensure it doesn't happen again in the future. So what's the end game?
Yes, Alfred, the recommendations bit, I think is very, very, very important for us as a country. I mean, moving forward. You see, Parliament as an institution, I mean, is an organ of government. We don't pretend that we have all the competencies to do certain things. That explains why you notice that the Speaker in his wisdom decided that it was important to appoint an expert, a technical person, to assist the committee do its job. Now, we are talking about policing. In some other jurisdictions, Alfred, we have what we call independent police complaints commissions. So you go to South Africa, it's there. You go to the UK, I mean, they have it. Policing is an area of specialization. It's the issues that would crop up from time to time, given the fact that they are the ones who interface with the public on a day-to-day basis. It requires that you have such a body made up of experts in place. You know, in some jurisdictions, you normally have retired, experienced senior police officers serving on the commission, lawyers, and other experts. You know, earlier when I was making my submissions, you asked whether it might be necessary for us to seek the advice or opinion of
a forensic
person, a voice expert or something.
Yeah.
You know, we don't readily have the expertise at our disposal. But if you had a body like an independent police complaints commission in place, you know, you have all those experts carefully chosen to serve on the commission. So that when these matters come up, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, you cannot always have the Speaker appointing committees or ad hoc committees, under normal circumstances, the Defense and Interior Committee to do this job. You want them to do the normal, generic or general oversight and allow specialized bodies like that to do some of the interrogations that we have now been tasked to do. That is not to say we won't do a good job, but you see, we have come of age since '92 when we all agreed that, look, let's return to constitutional rule. It's important that we put in place structures which will further enhance democratic governance in our country. And one of the things we need to do as a matter of urgency is the establishment of an independent police complaints commission, so that when these things come up, quickly the Complaints Commission would set in motion to try to resolve some of the issues. Having said that, I'm not preempting anything.
Right.
We would consider the evidence carefully, do our evaluation, establish facts that can stand the test of scrutiny, and present a comprehensive report before the plenary, where I and my friend and their peer, Kubi Esquire, would have the opportunity to debate.
Indeed.
And when we do that, I'm sure we would pass resolutions which would inure to the benefit of the public, whose interest we serve.
That's right.
I mean, in Parliament. We're not there, I mean, for ourselves. We represent the public interest, and that is what must be reflected in our report. And we expect that when we do, you see, Parliament can make recommendations, we can pass resolutions, but when it comes to the question of implementation, that is the duty of the executive. And so here, we would expect that the two organs work, I mean, in sync, I mean, so that we can achieve some results at the end of the day. Martin spoke about the tenure.
While you round up for me.
Yes, tenure of IGP. I think these are very important matters that should engage the attention of all of us. If we really have to instill professionalism in our security services, not only the police, not only the police, I think we need to look at that, I mean, aspect.
Indeed. Thank you. Andy Apekubi, yes. Finally, on this, I'm sure you've had your own concerns about the structure and workings of the police service, even before this incident. So, what should this incident lead to in terms of the necessary reforms to improve the workings of the Ghana Police Service in serving all of us?
You see, I have always advocated for a review of the Constitution, which I will still continue with the advocacy. The Constitution, when it gives so much power into the hands of one person, it becomes the beginning of problems. So Constitution review is past due. But my initial comments were about the procedure we have adopted, and I was pointing to certain procedural errors to my knowledge. I have not touched the content at all about the issues within the tape and all that. I was only talking about the admissibility aspect, and I was also referring to the jurisdiction that will pronounce on admissibility or otherwise. So I have not, and indeed, if it is established that the tape is admissible as part of the exceptions, then we go into the content thereof. And I would not at any point in time seek to speak against professionalism in any of our constitutional institutions. Indeed, that is what we all crave for going forward. And again, I personally also detest the appointment system based on other considerations but for competence. And indeed, for me, I stand for competence at all times. I've spoken variously against certain appointments, even in our national life. But as far as I can go, I will just comment and let other systems take control. But be it as it is, if we are together in investigating national issues, nobody is unpatriotic or unnationalistic, or we are all seeking to develop one nation without looking at who is this, who is that. In fact, if you come to Parliament, and when the report comes to Parliament, you will see the contributions come based on the content of the report, not from any position of partisanship. And this is what we will expect, and this is what will happen. At the end of the day, the recommendations that will come out of Parliament will be that which will address a national interest, and indeed provide a platform for a national cohesion integration, indeed in matters of security. Okay. I'm very happy to even observe that when it comes to security, even past government officials are always consulted by present government officials, making sure that we have a nation together. So we are all together in trying to make sure there's stability, there is development, there is cohesion and the national interest is always advanced. But in all cases, when you want to achieve that resource, you don't have to also neglect your responsibility to ensure individual sectional interest in the total aggregation of interest.
Right on. And Apekubi, thank you. And Lawyer Martin Kpebu has a lot to say on the next issue. So, lawyer, respectfully, and unless there's a concluding comment, no, because the next matter is, yes, I'll come to you, for example. The next matter is the Cecilia Dapaah happenings at the Financial Economic Division of the Accra High Court. This is a case that all of us have been following, but Lawyer Martin Kpebu has some extensive knowledge on this Cecilia Dapaah matters. So that's the next conversation. But Professor Jampo, a quick one on this before we
just to emphasize the point and to encourage the IGP and also to make some call on the president that, look, again, there are wizards, demons, and saints in every public administrative setup. And it takes only leadership with commitment to ensuring that things work well to decide to stick in support or to support saints who are committed and are loyal to their duty. Right. And so I am calling on President Akufo-Addo that he brought Dampare into office as IGP. Around this trial moment where people are conspiring to get him off, and then you have party top functionaries even supporting that call and playing key role in the scheme to get somebody who is serving Ghana well, as if we as a people, we don't like it when things are working well. I call on President Akufo-Addo. He knows why he brought Dampare there. He should stick behind Dampare and ensure that he goes on to deliver, to improve the quality of policing and security in our part of the world. Thank you.
All in all, thank you very much. Now, our next issue is the Financial and Economic Division of the Accra High Court, beg your pardon, ordered the Office of the Special Prosecutor to return all monies seized from the former Sanitation Minister, Cecilia Dapaah. Now, the OSP had gone to court to seek the extension of the freezing order. Well, the High Court says return all the money in 7 days. Lawyer Martin Kpebu has some exclusive information on the happenings in this matter. Stay with us. We will be right back after this quick break. We'll get into Cecilia Dapaah and matters arising here on Key Point.
Ready for something refreshing and great tasting? For your kids' enjoyment?
Angel Cola.
For your graduation enjoyment?
Angel Cola.
Beach hangout?
Angel Cola.
For all your refreshing moments?
Angel Cola.
For your parties, get-togethers, events, and celebrations, enjoy a chilled bottle of Angel Cola. Radio Grandma, today is your day. Over to you.
Thank you.
Enjoyment Cola.
Angel Cola.
The Enjoyment Cola. Enjoy all your moments and fun time with Angel Cola. This advert is FDA approved.
Thomas present Cut in the Middle, a stand-up comedy special by Okukobioko. Come experience a night of relentless laughter and music.
I was passing in front of my neighbor's house. I heard my neighbor, he was praying. He said, I eat the blood. I drink the blood. I satisfy myself with the blood. I say, my brother, calm down, no, before you give Jesus anemia.
Performing comedians are Obi Ampunsa Harara from Nigeria, Clemento Suarez, Shegala Bobo, Chemical, TK and Putogo. Venues at the National Theatre. Date Saturday, 16 September 2023. Time is 7 p.m. sharp. Rate 150 Ghana cedis for standard and 250 Ghana cedis for VIP. Dial *447 *2317# to purchase your ticket on all networks. Sponsored by Media Partners. Okukobioko. Caught in the middle. You go laugh till you choke.
This week on Kids Arena, we are talking bonding and its benefits on kids' development.
It's within a family unit that children learn how to be loved and feel important.
We'll have many interesting conversations on the trending kid of the week, the discovery of the week.
I like the landscape, the trees and everything.
And the TNE segment.
This project helps to reduce inequalities in education in the society and the world as a whole.
So don't miss out on any of these interesting conversations.
We will see you this Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on TV3.
Kids Arena, this is
Our guest for this week on Today's Woman is a phenomenal politician. Sometime of her life, she was a journalist.
I started at Radio Gold as a receptionist. And everybody thought that that is where I was going to end up.
Right?
By the time they realized I was presenting the morning show.
She is also known for her philanthropism in this country, impacting the lives of women and the youth.
We were giving these petty loans and stuff like that, 500 Ghana CDs. People had set up very little things that were helping them and their families.
You don't want to miss Today's Woman for this week. The bold, the beautiful Obobia Dako Opoku is our guest right here on TV3, 3 p.m. on Saturday with me, Cookie. Don't miss it.
Today's Woman with Cookie T shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Latex Foam, Vlisco.
Welcome back. This is Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. And I acknowledge all the comments from you, our viewers, on this matter and the resolution as agreed upon by my guests that this does not have to end with just a conversation on this leak tape. It has to lead to some permanent reforms to improve the system that we are running as a country. The Financial and Economics Division of the Accra High Court ordered the Office of the Special Prosecutor to return all monies seized from the former Sanitation Minister, Cecilia Dapa. The court ordered that this ruling be complied with within 7 days. The court said it cannot confirm the freezing of her bank accounts and other property. Now, take a look at this. And we'll put on the screen the sequence of events and what really led to the High Court freezing. In fact, this is what happened. The High Court reasons for dismissing the OSC's application. The confirmation of seizure application was filed out of time. That's number one. They said that there's a period of time that the OSP should have done that. Martin Kpebu will get into that. Two, the OSP exercised the power of seizure wrongly, and it will not be fair and just to confirm the seizure. The third reason that they give is that the OSP did not provide any basis for the seizure and the freezing since it did not disclose the details of the transactions in the accounts. And that the freezing order was based on public sentiment and without proper investigation. And this is the money that the OSP sought to extend the freezing order on. The over $590,000 US and the almost 2.8 million Ghana cedis that were found at the residence of Cecilia Dapa, her Abelinkpe residence. These are the bank accounts that had the monies in there that the court is saying the OSP failed to disclose the details of this bank accounts that he sought to freeze. And then also the OSP went to court on this particular, the strength of the section 40 of the Act 959. But eventually the court says, no, you know what? You did not satisfy all the requirements. So we cannot grant you that. Martin Kpebu, the event in court surprise you, especially because of some of what you have described as elementary mistakes or omissions that the OSP made in this case.
Okay. Yes. So let's start with that one. The elementary mistake is the matter. So there are two applications. So you saw the seizure. Seizure is under section 32. Okay, that's where you deal with seizure. So it's referring to the 590,000 and then the 2.7 million that was seized in her house when they went there to search. Then the freezing one refers to the money in the bank. So that money is not with the OSP, but it's in the bank, right? NIB, right?
Yes.
Some of the NIB mostly. Good. So let's deal with the second one. That's where the elementary mistake came from. The seizure one, I think it's more nuanced. I don't exactly agree with the judge. But so let's start with where it's easier.
So can we establish your point of disagreement with the judge? Reason why you thought that something else could have been done rather than the judge not agreeing with the OSP to extend the freezing order for the monies that were found in her house, the residence.
Good. So this is what you do. So you see in law, right now as we sit here, the tools that we use, there are so many. The sources of law. There's a constitution. There are acts of parliament. The acts of parliament alone, I think that right now they're over 1,000. I'm sure we are getting to 1,100. And even after the last act, I know there is the 1044. Okay, then this etc. So right now there are almost 1,100 acts of parliament. 1, 2, 3, can you imagine over 1,000, right?
Wow.
Then you have the common law. Makes so many rules. So what I'm saying is that the sum total of all the rules, when you put them together, what you get is that, look, that come to court within 7 days, as you see in the OSP Act, when it comes to seizure. In the event that somebody doesn't come within 7 days, there are 1,001 ways of curing it. Remember, we just did in the last topic, I told you that we deal with the case, the common law principle, which still goes very far, that evidence, no matter how obtained, is admissible. Of course, the exceptions are if you torture somebody, if you beat the person, the duress, undue influence, you promise the person, you lie. You see, confession statement, section 120, those are the exceptions. But the general rule is that evidence, no matter how obtained, is admissible. So when you just want to restrict the OSP to the 7 days, it doesn't show that we are taking cognizance of all the laws. It doesn't, because even the judge who sits there in the court, they will tell you, there is a rule there is a rule that usually judgments have to be given within a certain period, 3 months in the High Court. If you don't do that, a case went to the Supreme Court, ex parte EPP, ex parte expandable polytrain, blah, blah, it's a long word, EPP. Polystyrene, you know it, polystyrene. Professor Jampo is reading law. You should just finish it up. Good. Justice Apalu sitting in the High Court, a different Apalu, not the Chief Justice, did that case, and it went. The Supreme Court had to hold that, look, if they insist that judges must give judgments within the stipulated time, and so anything that goes outside makes the whole judgment void, it will bring untold hardship. So there was a previous Supreme Court decision called ex parte ABBA, where the Supreme Court had held that if a judge gives judgment outside the period, the judgment is void. It was creating too much problem. So you see that based on the exigencies, the practicalities of the matter, the Supreme Court had to reverse course and say, look, if you give outside, it's not a problem. Maybe if the parties are aggrieved, they can report the judge to the Chief Justice for administrative sanctions. So the point I'm making is that even in the court, it's not every rule you can obey stricto sensu. No. This one, can you imagine? Law enforcement agency, I call OSP that, they go and find $590,000. That's so far Madame Dapa cannot explain. and then 2.7 million that she cannot explain, and you are saying you didn't come within 7 days, so return it. And if you do that, like I told you, the rules are so many. I was going to show you this one. I don't need to quote. By the time I quote it, will delay because we don't have time. This is CI 47. Every lawyer will tell you when a case is taken to court, circuit court, high court, that's why we use CI 47. You have to file your defense within 14 days, okay? All right? So after the appearance, you have 9 days, you file appearance, then file your defense within 14 days. The same way, Supreme Court have held from the 1960s that if you don't file the defense within 14 days, the defense you file cannot be thrown out. No, it has to be considered once you filed it. So you see, that's another example. I can give you 1,001 examples where you see the law plain like this. You can read it. They say file your defense within 14 days. Yet if you don't file, nothing, I mean, they will take course against you, but it will be accepted. So many. I'm sure now I'm counting them. Lawyers can give you 1,001. So what the judge was supposed to have done is that he shouldn't have held the 7 days against the OSP.
Is this decision subject to the judge's own discretion, or there's some provision in the law that does not necessarily implore on the judge to strictly apply this 7-day rule?
Yes, so you find other laws.
You can apply for leave to
extend and all. So there are other laws that will tell. That's how I've named two. That's how I've told that we look at all the laws together. Then you see that, and also there's a principle that there's one cardinal principle to that the courts use. You don't make orders that cannot be enforced. The courts don't like orders that cannot be enforced at all. Enforceability, because now very soon when we go in, you see that when the OSP has taken your money.
Sorry, for the purpose of concluding on this matter, I think the rightful thing the OSP ought to have done would have been to apply to the court for extension of time to file it, albeit that you are out of time.
Okay.
It doesn't close your
that
access
window
to the court. And the court has inherent jurisdiction to grant
extension of time. Okay. Thank you for the intervention. In order not to distort your thoughts.
So you see how lawyers will be disagreeing, so we just leave it and go.
That's
right? So when they take, you see, when they take it, there is the form 4B where the OSP currency notice, right? When the OSP takes your currency and you can't explain, look, let me read it. You forfeit. So let's say it says to so and so. Take notice that the undermentioned amount of currency is liable to forfeiture, and you should, within 1 calendar month from the date of this notice, give notice in writing to the office. In default of such notice, the currency shall be deemed to have been lawfully forfeited to the state. If you give notice of claim or intended claim within the time stipulated above, legal proceedings for the forfeiture of the currency will commence.
This is the OSP Act?
Yes. Yes. Okay? Right. So there are so many tools available to the OSP that they can use, and so Madam Dapa will not get this money. So the judge should have been cognizant of that. Courts don't like making orders that cannot be enforced. Then you see that, like we say in Chi, now, when the court need form, the court will now be used, you know, you lose the dignity. So the courts guard that dignity jealously. So do you know that theoretically, OSP can call Madam Dapa, we don't like it, but it happens. And say, Madam, here is your money, take. Madam Dapa will take the money, start jubilating. She walks out of the door. When she gets to the main door, a gate, then they will stop her. Madam, we've rearrested you. I mean, come on. So Justice Chum shouldn't have. He should have watched all those things. Because then you see that you'll be pitching Kisi Ejebin against the courts. No. Okay. There are 1,001. As for timelines, look, there's a lot of work within the legal field. So many. Look, I went to court. The 48-hour rule that courts must sit on Saturday, Sunday to take bail applications. Since Chief Justice Sophie Kufu, and God bless her, you know, Chief Justice Sophie Kufu is one of the standing, citizens. And, you know, Yasantua, thank you, Yasantua. I know she shook Kufu, you know, very well. Accountability and everything. So the point is that Yasantua, when she was going, her last case was Pebu number 4 versus Attorney General number 4. That 48 hours is 48 hours. Mr. Okansi, as we talk now, even last week, I had clients who were kept in beyond 48 hours. Yet when we went to court, the judge didn't say, police, just because you've kept them beyond 48 hours, I'm not listening to the case. Accused person, walk, just go away. No. The judge looked at it, and the remedies, if the police don't release the person within 48 hours or bring the person to court, you can sue for damages. So this one, you look at it, the law didn't state that if OSP doesn't come within 7 days, the penalty is that this don't confirm. If the lawmaker wanted to say so, they would have said so. So if they don't, you look at the whole legal system, including you yourself, the work you do, the way the court have seen that you cannot do all your work within certain timeline. So exceptions have been made for judges, lawyers, and then you let this one pass. Because right now, as you said, the way the public is baying for the blood of Mr. Kissi Agyabin and Madam Dapana, you think Mr. Kissi Agyabin will release the money? No, it's not going to release because there will be an uproar. We will go out into the streets there, no, because we expect that he should do that old trick where he will give to Madam Dapa. Kissi Agyabin says, Madam Dapa, here is your money. Madam Dapa says, oh, thank you, hallelujah. Hey, God has done it. She gets to the main gate, then they re-seize it, and the thing starts again. So when you do that, the court loses dignity. But the second one, that's a freezing order.
That is the bank account.
Yes, yes, as for that one, the judge was spot on.
You agree with the judge?
Oh, I agree with the judge, 150%. Look, and on the lawyers' platform, before this case was heard in court, I had said, lawyers were debating it. And I said, listen, I don't see how the judge will grant a freezing order when you don't tell the judge what is in the account. This is too elementary. We have a lawyer's platform, learned friends. I put it there. I said, why? What is in it? I can imagine, yes, Mr. Kissi Agyabin is doing investigations. From the way it is, you know, we are not kids. We all understand a bit. That's so we are talking about the accounts, one of which is said to have total volume of transactions, $5 million. And then the other one has $48 million, not bank balance, total volume of transactions from what we hear. That's monies that were paid in over a period, right? So I can imagine that certain people paid in monies. So if you just throw out the account into the public, maybe it can scuttle the investigations. Yeah. Fair enough. So what you do is that then you can apply to the court that you want to do it in camera. So you give the judge a loan. And the parties, they alone. If you say we shouldn't see, why not? If you say the public we shouldn't see, why not? Though we had heard it, but you don't want the statement out because so many names may be involved. So all those people will start panicking. People will be calling their chiefs to go to OSP and beg and the rest. Yes, that's what's going to happen naturally. That's what's going to happen. When you see so many names, chiefs will be, and you know OSP himself, Mr. Agyabin himself had said the chiefs are his main headache. When his chief calls him, that one he cannot refuse. Indeed. Mr. Agyabin said it, right, in one of the... And so what those people will simply have to do is to go and look for the Kwewu Manhene and tell Kwewu Manhene that, hey, your royal is going to do this X, Y, Z to us. Call him. He himself has said when Kwewu Manhene calls him, that one, Charlie, he has to go because... Yes, he said it's an interview. Mr. Agyabin said it. So if I were advising somebody who is so what, it's likely I say, oh, go and look for Kwewu Manhene. Mr. Agyabin says when Kwewu Manhene calls him, that one he has to go. He has no option, right? So I can imagine that throwing out the statement can scatter his investigation. So there are ways. You remember the National Service case? The National Service case. They did the sittings in camera. When national security officers wanted to testify, they went and did it in camera. You can use the inherent jurisdiction of the court, though it's debatable and the rest, but by and large, it can be done. And so this tells you that we ourselves, these civil procedure rules and the criminal procedure rules, we have to begin to look at the OSP, the amendment of the law. Amendment of the law so that they can do a lot more
of the law.
Yes.
The Act 959.
Yes, 59. Oh, there are so many problems with it. So that you can do a lot more of these ex parte things. Because if you release, so that maybe then the judge will say, okay, in that case, you know what? Take the statement, block out the names of those people who paid in their monies, right? And the people to whom their monies were, block out all those and then annex it. So we'll just see the figure. Maybe 3rd September 2022, 1 million was paid in. You don't see the name of the person, but you see 1 million. Another date, so all of them. So we can see the total, but we'll not see names. Yeah, that's what is done under disclosure, criminal law. So we need to amend the OSP law to be able to make provision for a lot of this, right?
I see.
But the main thing is that as for the bank balances of what, 5 million, and the other one, 48 million Ghana. That is the crown jewel even of the evidence. The fact that one didn't go, Justice Chu is right.
So this of the OSP, which you describe as elementary, and that the OSP should have known this. what does this tell you, especially because of the heightened public interest in this particular case, and that some members of general public have a strong opinion that this is just something that is being done that is not going to end up really anywhere, this case, and that the OSP is just acting and will bow to pressure in time to come. Then this elementary mistake is made, just as you have described it. What does this tell you?
Yeah, so that's why I followed social media and I saw people were crying that the thing is staged. It's staged. For the first time, I had to buy into it. Yeah, though I still support Mr. Ejebi 130%, I had to buy into this thing being staged because it's so elementary. You are saying the judge should freeze an account. You are not telling him what is inside. How? Is the judge a robot? Is the judge a robot? Then you just, what OSP is saying is that, under the law, it says if he's investigating. And you forget that you have to convince the judge how you are investigating. So look at the law. The respondent, 40, issuing of freezing order. This is what OSP's argument was. That 40, so at 959, it says 41, where an application is made for a freezing order, the court shall issue the order if it is satisfied that A, the respondent is being investigated for corruption or a corruption-related offense. It's being investigated. Yeah, so you don't just put in an affidavit, I'm investigating Madame Dapaah for corruption or corruption-related offense. Full stop. So because of that, and that her answers are not checking out. The statement Madame Dapaah gave, give it. Give it. I understand that statement is telling, It even begins to give Madame Dapaah away. Annex it. That's why I said, if you don't want those things to come out, so then after you've filed, then file for in-camera hearing. File for in-camera hearing. If it's thrown out, then you have the right to go to the Supreme Court under Article 135.
Right.
Under Article 135. You see, so use those tools. But to just put in affidavit, you are investigating Madame Dapaah for this, it's not sufficient. So that place, as for the second one, the freezing order under section 40 and then 41, the judge is right for not making that order. So, but thankfully, Mr. Kissi Agyabeng can put his house together and go back. He should go back.
Okay.
Yes.
So he should go back.
Yes, because if you are going on appeal, initially I thought an appeal would have been good. But then if you are going on appeal, you are restricted to only what you filed. And if what you filed, you didn't tell the judge even about the evidence, what you saw in the account, how is the Court of Appeal going to help you? And you cannot put in, yes, he can start all over. Just reapply for the freezing. Yeah, repeat application. Then you annex it. It's allowed in the law. And because if you go on appeal...
And it's difficult to provide fresh evidence.
Exactly, on appeal. No, the simple question they will ask is that, the evidence you didn't attach, was it in existence at the time you went to the High Court? Yes.
Upon due diligence.
And they will just throw it out.
So an appeal is not good.
Professor Jampo, so the OSP says is assuring the public that it will take all necessary legal steps to ensure that the seized amounts and the balances in Cecilia Dapaah's bank accounts and investments are neither concealed, lost, or otherwise dissipated.
You see, let me just say this. People didn't, there are so many people who didn't like it when I took issues with Kissi Agyabeng and his posting, and I had so many people calling us. He was my classmate. I was in the Kwafo S4. I think he was in assistant. We did either political science or philosophy together. But there were certain things that I found quite difficult to.
I'm happy that you didn't get to S13.
You are still going to worry me.
This is a careful match.
Yes,
yes, James was also in Kwafo. Yes, the Hall of Excellence.
It explains. Let's Prof, move on.
All right, so, but listen to what the court is saying. We can't confirm freezing of Cecilia Dapaah's bank account. OSP couldn't find reasonable grounds. Action was born out of speculation, reaction to public sentiments. OSP undertook poor investigations. That's what the court is telling us. You see, it ties in with my earlier view that it appears Kissi Agyabeng is rushing too much And growing up, we had an expression, "Sawo Russia ubiti." We all do not like, we are not happy with those huge sums of money hidden under the bed of a minister in an era of economic miserization. We don't like it. Now, it appears that your wealth is, I mean, somebody was sarcastically or jokingly telling me, he saw me and said, "How much do you have in your house?" And I said, "Why?" He said, "Now your wealth is determined by how much you have at home. Because how much you have at home gives an indication of what you have in the bank, in Ghana and banks outside Ghana." So we are. What question are you asking me? What's the coefficient?
Yes, for example.
He still worrying me. I said, "You are not prepared for today's program."
Yes.
So in trying to deal with this challenge, in my view, I think we need a certain maturity, a certain tact, a certain competence, a certain open door policy that listens to other views and suggestions, and a toned down effort or approach that does not present you as Russian. And then also not assuming or touting certain non-existent accolades of being a conscience of the nation. You don't do that. The most important thing is to get the work done. And so Martin, I think, was being charitable by saying that he's trying to just buy into the argument that it was staged or something. But I think that, you see, it is a reflection of he not listening and also Russian. Because, like you said, the mistakes that he made. Now you are saying you disagree with the courts, but I'm asking myself, was he not at the courts when the courts, these processes were going on? It means you couldn't advance any superior argument, and that's how come the court had to come to this particular conclusion. And then you are out there in the court of public opinion trying to defend yourself by saying we don't agree, we disagree, and all that. Take your time.
Okay.
We don't like what is happening. We don't like the fact that in the midst of economic miserization, people can conceal those huge sums of money in their bedroom. And we want you to fight it. We like your energy, but temper the energy with some tact and some maturity and lesson. Don't rush. Otherwise, then you'll be a disappointment to Ghana.
Great. Mr. Apiakubi, so even before I come to you, you recall that Martin Alamisi Burns Kaiser Amido, the former special prosecutor, or the first special prosecutor of the Republic of Ghana, wrote an epistle on Kessie Jabing. One of the things he said, and I quote, that the OSP was not established as a corporate fisheries entity to go into the oceans, rivers, and other water bodies of crime,
he was damn right,
casting its net widely to scoop in every fish the net can catch, and then decide which type of fish meets its fancy to be retained as game or food for sacrifice to the gods of persecution, and which to release back into the oceans. And says deficiencies in investigatory and prosecutorial experience of Kessie Jabing is what has haunted him into override mode. And let me, because you're a lawyer, let me find out, I'll come to you on this matter, because it says there is no crime under Act 959 known as alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses, unquote. There is no crime under Act 595 on this, in that the mandate of the OSP is to investigate and prosecute specific cases of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses. Emphasis supplied that in Act 959, no crime such as alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses is captured in there. Is this consistent with the details of the law?
Right. Alfred, I'm sure you are in my mind when you are putting the question together. The establishment of the office by the Act is specific, and it talks about investigation in special cases of alleged corruption or suspected corruption or corruption-related offences. The position doesn't present an omnibus mandate to, that is what Matiamidu is saying, that you hear of anything at all and you jump on the boat, you want to investigate. No, you are limited by the statute that appointed you, and it's saying that you only investigate corruption or perceived corruption or corruption-related offences. So what one would say in the event of the application, number one, is there any corruption or corruption-related offence being tried? That is where you see. Is there any process of investigating corruption or corruption-related charges? And for now, let me put it on record that I am not sure there was any complaint whatsoever. So it is based on the perception of the OSP that there is some corruption. That is where you have to indicate to the court where your suspicion lies. You cannot just go to court, otherwise you bring all of us to court and say that I suspect this person as engaging in corruption or corruption.
That you are driving.
Say again?
Your view is that you are driving. You use as a basis.
Yes. We will not investigate yours. Okay, fine. So you should demonstrate to the court the grounds upon which you come before the court. And the judge is not with you, so you don't perceive him to be knowledgeable in the areas that you think brought you to court. Again, the state is an entity that has enormous resources and power to be able to undertake every assignment in prosecution. So you go to court unprepared like that, it is very indefensible that a state institution will go to court without the necessary preparation. And that is grievous. Indeed, I have also learned from practice that you need to be diligent at all times, not at some times. Sometimes you will appoint your junior to handle a case, and the junior is handling the case in your name. And he files an application before the court, and because you did not supervise properly, the application is flawed. I will not say probably it is Mr. Kisei Japon as a person, but it's office. And therefore, anybody who works in that office works in his name. And therefore, he should learn something from this, that whatever goes out in your name, you must be sure that it is that which you represent. Otherwise, because as Martin put it, very elementary like that, I am not sure it may have come under the hand of the OSP.
Sign the motion.
Normally, when your juniors prepare it, you will sign. But you sign without reading. I had an experience a little while ago when I filed a suit in Kumasi. I got my junior to prepare it. He brought to me to sign. The matter is in Kumasi. But for all I know, when I go to Kumasi court, the address was Accra. You see? And I had to withdraw to come back. So it is possible some of these things can happen. But for you to go to court unprepared is very dangerous, particularly coming from a state apparatus like OSP's office. We refer to the law, you need 7 days to come before the court. If it has expired and the court has inherent jurisdiction, and it is part of our practice procedure, that you come to the court. I was supposed to have done A, B, C, D at this time. I wasn't able for this reason or that reason. And therefore, give me extension of time to come back to you on the same application. It is done all the time. I don't know why you will want to circumvent that. But when you make mistakes, you provide ammunition to your opponent to hit you with the mistakes that you make. So this one, and as Martin was saying, it is not foreclosed. Indeed, this application for extension of time can still come.
Okay, on this bit on the extension of time, respectfully, the OSP in the paragraph 3 of his statement tried to explain and in why he disagrees with the court's conclusion on the time issue. He says the OSP believes that the court's computation of the time limitation is, with respect, erroneous. The OSP searched 3 private residences associated with Cicely Adapa over the course of 2 weeks. The searches and discovery were ongoing during that period. There is little doubt that the OSP filed its application within the statutory window once the search and discovery window is considered.
Right.
So they said the search was ongoing, and that's his explanation for that time issue.
No, the provision does not relate to the end of the search. It says at the seizure, the point of seizure, the time that you seize the property, that's where time starts to run. And section 32(2), you shall apply to the court on notice
Within 7 days.
within 7 days of the seizure. So it is not, well, you could have seized part and you will be investigating others. But that does not mean that the right to go to court will not have matured. So the moment you seize, you start counting for 7 days. And you have to go to court within the 7 days. And what I'm saying is that it is not foreclosed. He can still come back and apply for extension of time and come back on this. And the issue of and this one is a confirmation of the seizure. You understand? This one, you are going to seek the court's order to confirm that you have seized the property, and it's in consonance with the law that the property is seized.
Okay.
On the others, as Martin was saying, when you are before the court, make sure you provide every evidence necessary for the court to be informed and satisfied to be able to grant you your application. You cannot bring part of the evidence and seek the court to investigate other parts and add to your submission. The affidavit must be conclusive of everything that will aid the court in coming to a conclusive decision.
Okay.
So you go to court and say freeze account, freeze what account, and for what amount of money. And in any case, is it the case that everything in that account is also subject to investigation?
That is,
if it is not,
tainted property.
then you have to make sure that you highlight those that are subject to your investigation and call and apply for the seizure or confirmation of the seizure of same. But you come to court and say that freeze the total account.
But I want to find out, do you think he didn't know this? Or
that's what I'm saying. And sometimes it's about supervision. I would not fault OSP for not knowing. It's a big office.
But in the end, the buck still stops with him.
But the buck still stops with him.
And
therefore he must be diligent in his approaches, because it's under his signature. So he has to supervise. But once in a while, you may go astray.
The benefit is that
whatever is before you is good and sign. But he's learning on the job. You should know that people are also going to be very critical of his submissions and his applications. Right. And indeed, it is where the opponent will find the bullets to hit him back. And in all cases, you have in contemplation that somebody is also supervising your job, even as you are not supervising your own.
Thank you. Mr. James Agalga, you're a lawyer as well. So, on the basis of this particular omission, which there's some consensus on this table that it is basic and elementary, that the special prosecutor should have known and done this if indeed there was that commitment to execute this particular case in the manner in which the public was expecting, and that these elementary omissions actually feeds into that suspicion that this is just much ado about nothing, and that this case is not going to end anyway.
So, Alfred, the issue here is that the courts have so far relied on procedural matters provided for under the Office of Special Prosecutor Act, right, in declining to grant a confirmation order on the frozen accounts. Essentially, that is what is an issue here. Does that foreclose other options open to the special prosecutor? I think it has been established here that there is no foreclosure. I am interested in the next steps. I am very interested in the next steps. The special prosecutor has put out some press releases attempted to explain, he's disagreed with the court, etc. But for me, what is fundamental is that we cannot allow for an individual in whose house a discovery, 500 and, is it how much? $90,000 was discovered, cash.
That's about 12 million Ghana.
2.7 million Ghana cedis discovered. At the same time, the same person has a complaint before the police, which indicates that a colossal sum of $1 million was stolen from her home by her aides. An additional amount of 300 million euros, 300,000 euros, was stolen in addition to the $1 million. These issues are of crucial importance.
Plus other amount of cities.
Exactly.
Without running into...
These issues cannot be swept under the carpet. We all know Honorable Cecilia Dapa was a Minister of State. And from every indication, it doesn't appear as though she is somebody engaged in some other business ventures and so on and so forth as part of the investigation. I mean, listening to Martin, I am told that from statements she has so far given out, it doesn't appear that she's engaged in some other businesses. And so clearly there is a case to answer here. We don't want all these legal niceties, procedure to be used to water down on the substance. So that is why I am interested. I'm a lawyer. I know when you miss certain steps, especially when the matter is criminal, the rights of whoever is suspected or is accused, must be taken very seriously. But at the same time, the country has resolved that we must all fight corruption. And that is why the Office of Special Prosecutor was set up in the first place. As for me, in the course of the debate, if my brother here, Andy, would recall, I had taken a stance that this particular law that we enacted was unnecessary in the first place. I mean, it was going to be yet another layer of bureaucracy.
And again, it is subject to the Attorney General.
To the Attorney General. So ab initio, it was even unnecessary to establish an office like that. But you see, at that point in time, the President's policy was that, look, that office would be the panacea to the fight against corruption. We set up the office eventually. We all know the challenges the office has been through. There's been a lot of inertia on the part of government to fund the office to take off on a good note. So initially, issues to do with lack of office space, even the ability to recruit staff, etc. All these questions came up. And finance, So in a way, there was this belief that the government itself did not even want the office to function effectively. Be that as it may, Mr. Jabeng is in office. The former special prosecutor, my own uncle, Mr. Martin Amidu, we left office on a certain note. When he tried to do his work, we know there were a lot of impediments, and eventually he had to resign out of frustration. We now expect that the current special prosecutor will live up to expectation. The public wants to know the source of those funds. How did Madame Cecilia Dapa come by the colossal amounts of money that were stolen, the amount of money that was discovered, and even the transactions that took place, the transactions in her account.
But you agree that the processes established by the OSP to also to know the source of the funds are also crucial, is it not?
Absolutely. So I have indicated in some other fora that, look, the Office of Special Prosecutor must work in tandem with the Financial Intelligence Center. There was a time I was even asking questions that, look, when certain transactions happen in bank accounts, there are procedures for the work or the mandate of the FIC to be triggered automatically, and how all these things didn't happen. It took somebody to lodge, the person who is now a suspect, Madam Cecilia Dapaah, to lodge a complaint before the special prosecutor now set in, and before the disclosures that the certain bank accounts, you know, had gone through some suspicious transactions, leaves much to be desired, you know. So the failure to even make the disclosure, I mean, is something we need to question. I mean, before the law courts.
Right.
If you go peruse the act, I don't think there is any provision which warrants, you know, those non-disclosures. What is it? What is it that the accounts that they sought to freeze? Why is it that whatever is contained in there was not even made public? What's the incentive?
Which is supposed to be elementary.
Absolutely. What's the incentive?
The perceived independence of the office is compromised by the same act. You see, the preamble to the act says that on the authority of Attorney General. And Section 4A, Section 4.1 says that without the control of any person or authority. What does that mean?
So you see, Alfred, to wrap up, as for me, the initial steps the OSP took, clearly the court did not, he did not find favor with the court. Let him proceed with the speed of light to undertake the next steps, because the public is curious.
Right.
We want to know, in the midst of so much economic hardship and difficulty, if an individual can have such colossal amounts of money hidden under her bed. Clearly, there are questions to answer, and the special prosecutor, I mean, it's at the center. We expect, you know, the special prosecutor to deliver on his mandate.
Very important point there. Honorable James Ogaga, thank you. A minute on this, about what the specific case that Martin Amidu makes, that there is no specific crime as corruption and corruption-related activities in Act 959. You've read that statement from Martin Amidu.
Yes. Okay, so I get the point that he's making. Yeah, so he's saying that he should be specific. The offenses that have been listed under Section 79 of the OSP Act. So you see the corruption, extortion, bribery, election offenses, you see procurement offenses, so right? So he's saying that pick specifically, Madam Dapaah, you are being investigated for bribery and corruption. That's what Mr. Amidu is saying, right? So he wants a specific one. Is it bribery alone? Is it corruption alone? Is it an election one? Is it public procurement? There's an offense, okay, and so on and so forth. Yes, those ones, it can be, that argument fair. But, you know, I can also understand where Mr. Jabin is coming from, that he's conducting investigations. But when you arrest, that one you have to be specific. When you arrest the person, you have to. And I will be surprised. So have we seen any statement that says that Mr. Jabin wasn't specific when Madam Dapaah's statement was being taken?
There hasn't been.
So
there was one that indicated that she had not been charged. That when there was that detail that herself and her husband.
If he had indicated
yes.
That the judge would have made pronouncement on it.
No, he said it in the affidavit. He says that he's investigating, so he came under Section 40.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, Mr. Amidu's thing. Maybe I've not gotten the context, because the law says if you go to court,
sure that this will be a subject.
Show that you are investigating. That's what you have to show.
Yes.
So the main or the person is being charged.
Right.
The main thing is the accounts he didn't show. That one, the judge is right.
When you say that's elementary.
Elementary. At least you can block out the names and then apply to the judge that I want to show you the full one in camera. If the judge is not willing to do that, Article 135 says, then go to the Supreme Court. Article 135 of our Constitution says that if you think either national security or in the public interest, that you shouldn't put out everything, it's the Supreme Court that will determine. And there are a few cases on that.
Right on. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And the jury certainly is out there on this matter. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. There's Gabon, the latest country to experience a coup. And this is the 9th coup in the last 3 years. 6 out of the 9 in the West African sub-region. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.
Rasta. Rasta. What does Rasta really mean to the people? In today's episode of Rasta Vibration, this is what we're looking at. Rasta. What does it mean to you?
To me, Rasta means real.
Rasta to me means artistic. Rasta to me means study.
Rasta to me means trailblazing.
That's what people like you and I do every day.
What? Where you there?
You
do.
Listen, Rasta, I have a bone to pick with you. Some of the things that you say on air, though, are morally, ethically, and politically. Relax. Kids are watching.
Sit
down, my youth.
Respect. Rasta means the motherland, Africa.
Real artistic, sporty, trailblazing African choco malt drink.
This advert is FDA approved.
Artificial intelligence, creativity and sustainability. Join this year's Africa Rising 6, brought to you by the International Advertising Association IAA at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, as we uncover the power of building future-ready brands on 5th and 6th September. Speakers Sasan Saidi, World Chairman and President, International Advertising Association, Andrew Techiapia, co-founder and MD, ZPay, Letepu Machaba, independent business leader, former Vice President of Home Care, Unilever, Ivan Moroki, CEO, Kanta South Africa, Guy Parker, Chief Executive, Advertising Standards Authority, United Kingdom, Steve Papaiko, CEO, Extreme Ideas, Sami Awuku, Director General, National Lottery Authority, and many more. This conference is sponsored by Margins Group, ZPay, Google, MTN, GOIL and NLA, media partners, CNN, Media General, Graphic Communication Group. Register now at www.africarising.iaaglobal.org for more information or contact Nanajwa on 0242 528 431 or the AAG Secretariat 0244 440477.
Welcome back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7 on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Well, this week, in fact, just about some 4 days ago, we woke up to the news of another coup on the continent, this time in Gabon. And in the early hours of that day, Wednesday, the deposed president, Ali Bongo, recorded this video asking for help. Take a look.
Bongo Ondimba, President of Gabon, and I'm to send a message to all the friends that we have all over the world to tell them to make noise, for the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence and nothing happening. Nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you. Thank you.
Well, before this video, after that, the coup, there was widespread jubilation on the streets of the capital of Gabon. And we'll be showing that video those videos as we go on. And the reason for this coup is there was an election on the 28th. And as has been the case in previous elections in Gabon, when the election is about rounding up, counting is about beginning, the lights, there's a blackout, internet goes down. When internet is restored, all sorts of things have happened. And then the ruling party is leading. Like some and they realize that the people realize this cannot continue, especially taking into consideration even the health of the president in question, for that matter. These are the coup leader, who is the cousin to Ali Bongo. This man who has been carried, who is the cousin to Ali Bongo, is being hailed by the people for doing what is in their interest at this moment. This is the 9th coup in the last 3 years on the continent. 6 out of the 9 occurred in the sub-region, the West African sub-region, in the last 3 years. Honorable James Agalga, let me start off with you on this, especially because of the numbers we're seeing and the reasons that's led to this coup. Last time we were talking about Niger. Now look at what's happening in Gabon.
Yeah, Alfred. Well, I think when we had the discussion on the Niger coup and the threat by ECOWAS to intervene in that country, there was general consensus. I mean, I recall when we sat around this table, you know, and made contributions, that it was a reckless move on the part of ECOWAS. And again,
very reckless.
Again, we had indicated very clearly that the reasons for the rampant coups in Africa were as a result of bad governance. Now, when we had these discussions, little did we know that it was going to be the turn of Gabon, even though the predictions had been made. And there were no pointers to the fact that Gabon was going to become the next destination for military intervention. But let's consider the circumstances of Gabon. A very rich oil producing nation. They started producing oil in the 70s.
Yes.
The population is not very large, but the oil reserves, it's one of the leading producers of oil in Africa. Gabon should be a very rich nation.
Okay.
But if you look at the statistics, okay, only a few people in Gabon have amassed wealth in a manner that is hard to explain. The president's relations can afford to go to France, buy all the Bugattis, the luxurious residences, right? And live in opulence, filthy opulence, that not even the French president can afford, Emmanuel Macron. But when you go back home to Gabon, you find that the majority of the population live below the poverty line. They cannot find decent meals to eat. They don't have decent housing. They lack potable drinking water.
Right.
The no-bed syndrome in the hospitals is something they have to contend with. When you have all these indicators, you have an ailing president whose father had ruled the country for over 50 years.
Yes, from 1967 to 2009.
Now, when Ali Bongo himself, elections were rigged, there was widespread violence. He's ailing, he doesn't want to hand over. What do you expect the military to do? We don't support coups, but would you say this coup was justified? So, like we agreed the last time, the panacea to all these problems is good governance. Let's stop the thievery and the corruption. You don't need to wire monies to Europe for anything. Develop your own country and live in there.
Let me bring in Mr. David Otu. is a director for the Geneva Center for Africa Security and Strategic Studies. He's joining us from Abuja in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mr. David Otto, for your time on Key Point. From your own diagnosis and the work that you've been doing at the Geneva Center, what could be the underlying factors for the upsurge in these coups we've seen, the latest in Gabon, 9 of them in the last 3 years?
The analysis that one has been able to observe is that each coup d'etat has its own DNA, but there are commonalities with what we've seen in the past 3 years that 8 military coups have occurred in the continent. I think one of it has been the collapse of democratic institutions, whereby leaders who pretend to run in institutions that are democratic would abuse the constitution. For example, they would change the constitution to allow them to run for additional terms. Some of them would change the constitution to ensure that they can have some hold on the arms of government that constitute the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Corruption has also been a heightened factor. But if you look at, for example, in the Sahel, there has been talks about democratic systems not being able to deal with the economy, issues of corruption, issues of insecurity. But also in the case of Gabon, which we're currently witnessing, there is an issue of, some kind of authoritarian, but also governments that have stayed in power through some kind of a dynasty. The president of Gabon, whose father had been there since 1967, himself since 2009, has seen one family ruling for about 57 years. And, this is something that it's not acceptable within democratic institutions. Another factor that we've seen is that the actors themselves who are taking over power from democratic institutions are the military. In real democracy, you do not see the military playing a crucial role when it comes to politics. The military's role is to protect territorial integrity of nation states. But these governments are using the military for regime protection, not national security protection. And what happens is that their vulnerabilities are being exposed, and the military is taking advantage of the lack of insecurity, economy, and corruption to justify military coups. So these are some of the key factors that we've seen within the continent. But I think the most important one has been the issue of colonialism and the kind of remnants.
A very, very important point there. And Mr. David Otto, thank you so much and for this very important input, albeit short. But appreciate your time. The director for Geneva Center for Africa Security and Strategic Studies, joining us from Abuja. Professor Ransford Jampo, so we've seen the events that led to this. Olali Bongo is asking for help. Do you see the help coming?
And he decided to ask for the help in English instead of the official language, lingua franca of his country. And he said he doesn't even know why he's been overthrown. I said, this man,
he doesn't even understand why he's president.
Is he serious? Recently, a colleague of mine said he thought the research and analysis and public commentary on military intervention in Africa has been pushed into oblivion. But I quickly responded by telling him that we are likely to see more coups. So long as politicians take the people for granted in a manner that creates what Professor Michael Quay referred to as the state of praetorianism. A state of the state of praetorianism, you are referring to a state of confusion where because of corruption, mismanagement, bad governance, arrogance, opulence, hiding monies under beds in a wake in the wake of economic miserization, people now begin to make demands on the state. That's what we refer to as the state of praetorianism. If this continues for a long time, then we are likely to see more coups. And I've said, let me repeat again, that the solution to military interventions in politics is not in anything. It's about lies in good governance. Okay. Govern well, and then you have peace. Govern well, and you will not have your blood pressure spiking if you're a president of a developing country like Ghana. Right. Your blood pressure will not go up because your people would have been satisfied. But if you are not governing well, and you are allowing corruption and so many bad governance practices to go on, the moment you hear of coups elsewhere, then your blood pressure goes up.
Right. Thank you. Lawyer Martin Kpebu, please.
So, let me just continue from...
okay.
Okay. Yeah, so tying with what Professor Jampu just said. So one better governance. And so the connection I see is that what do we learn from Gabon? You see, as the people got tired, they said what? Away with Ali Bongo. So in that same way, I'm thinking that what we learn from it in Ghana is that, fortunately for us, even though we are also suffering, there is hunger, about 3 million of our citizens can't survive. They live on less than $1.90 a day. That's about 24 Ghana cedis. Fortunately for us, our constitution says that there can be early elections. Article 60, clause 13. It says that where the Speaker of Parliament assumes the office of President as a result of the death, resignation, or removal from office of the President and the Vice President, there shall be a presidential election within 3 months after his assumption of office. So President Akufo-Addo and Bawumia should just step down. Let's go for early elections within 3 months. That's the lesson, because the way people are getting despondent, we already have the Arab Spring here. We have the Arab Spring here. You never know. He should just go, because you see, last week he admitted it on tape. You've seen the video. He says the next leader will come and take us out of the difficulties. So what is he doing in the office? He should go now. He said the next leader should we? Can you play it? He says the next leader. The next leader will come and take us out of it. So Akufo-Addo should go now. Let's have elections within 3 months. That's Article 60.
Honorable Appiah Kubi, did you hear this? Did he say that? He's here.
Can we play it? Can we play it?
President Akufo-Addo saying that the next leader will take us out.
I have it on my phone. That's what I'm playing.
It is indeed the case. Honorable, he said that. He said it.
Yes.
Wow. He said it. It's not a joke. He said finally.
I have the
in a minute.
I have the right to
Has
speak
he been
now.
misquoted or what?
Look, when the president says that next leader will come and take us out of the mess or out of the difficulties, if he said that.
He said it, actually.
There's a reason to that we are recovering from the effects of the global effects and all that, and that we will not probably have recovered fully by the end of his administration. And therefore, the next leader who comes will have the opportunity of continuing to totally take us out of...
Are you a presidential spokesperson?
Well, I'm not a president, but this is how I understand it. He did not say that...
You always understand things better than people
he did
who
not
make
say
their
that
comments.
because...
Your understanding is better.
Because I haven't finished with the
I am heckling you.
He did not say because I cannot have a way of coming out, and that I have not started and I cannot. He says he will continue and take us out.
Clear in his words.
He says the next
He understands the issues better than the president himself.
So I'm saying this is the way I understand.
Yes, we're going to play that.
I thought Andy said he hasn't even seen
to conclude.
The news bulletin.
The reliefs that we are getting, the recovery that we are making, he doesn't anticipate him finishing within his term. And therefore, the next leader will take us totally out of...
We don't have to wait till next December. Let's do it.
And the Appiah Kubi is
it is your suggestion. But whether or not I will take your suggestion is another matter.
He's a member of parliament for the Asante Achi.
I thought you said you haven't seen the news bulletin.
James Agaza,
You're very autocratic.
Vice Chair of this 7-member committee probing the IGP. Gentlemen, thank you. The IGP's leaked tape is the member of parliament for the Bolsa.
But unfortunately, you didn't give me 1 minute to comment on the takeover. That's the problem. So give me 1 minute.
You have actually
we know your views already. We know your views.
Thank you.
The
ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, Professor Ramso Jampo, is a professor of political science. Martin Kpebu is private legal practitioner. I got a message from Dr. Kwame Asante who says he's proposing that you be the next special prosecutor. Martin Kpebu. Thank you.
All of them.
Somebody sent me a similar
message. Thank you for your message.
All of them.
I am out for the council. Take a look at this while we end. Thank you. On
Somebody
behalf of
sent me a
the team,
similar
appreciate your
message.
time.
I told you.
Thank you.
us around the new leader who will then be able to lead us in a unified manner to the election of 2020.
Mr. President, please, are you telling the delegates to vote for some aspirants? These are
why are you bringing it up again? you're not convinced.
Some say they are not convinced by the message. They want you to walk the talk.
But at the same time, there's some calling for me to endorse their candidates. There's some who are calling for me to endorse.
Being at the pageant is not just about your beauty, but your service and impact to your region. Here,